This meeting is being live streamed. Well, maybe there's someone there that can hear me say to mute it so we can talk to each other.
Well, I'll tell you, it was 11 degrees when we got up this morning in Wichita. And this Yeti lookalike was half full of tea in my truck, and it had a coating of ice. It was like the lake when it gets cold. Hey, Mark.
It gets a lot colder up there than it does here in Oklahoma.
Well, my in-laws were from up there, and I told my wife, I said, we got there yesterday. It was in the 60s. And I said, I'm not sure I've ever been to Wichita when it was in the 60s. Of course, that was when we lived in Kentucky. The only time we came out was like Thanksgiving and Christmas, and it always snowed. And but they've still got lots of snow. I don't know when they got snow, but I mean, the parking lots, have 4-foot tall mounds of snow, in the corners where they plowed them. And
yeah, they had a lot more than we did, that's for sure.
Yeah, they must have. But
well, I can see we're going to have trouble hearing each other.
He's going to do it. And
I thought sure that Mark had muted that.
I'm glad you passed. You can one in your class.
I'll text him.
You passed. And he marked it as.
I mean, there's only 3 of them there now. It's going to be worse when you get a bunch of them there.
Say there wasn't anybody else in the building.
I just sent him a text. Mark Klein is going to be doing the class. They're starting a class over at the Moore EOC
tonight.
Yep. They're doing one of those. There's Mike. They're doing one of those Tech General classes.
Oh, okay.
So I was just like, just get it. And honestly, I didn't.
Maybe I'll call him.
Started looking at the questions, you thought, wait a minute, that was on the tech issue.
And call him and interrupt his intro to the class.
No, the class is over at the EOC.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, can you mute the mic again? We can hear you every word you say.
Me?
I got it off.
No.
Not everything.
I'm holding it right here. It's off.
I think the one on the computer is on because it's.
Mark, supposed to turn that off permanently. Hold on.
Okay.
Can we blame it on Mark?
Sure.
Yep. Couldn't hear that except on my cell phone. All right. Thanks, man. Oh, you too. We're warmer than you are, I'll bet. Okay. Well, go outside and string some antennas for us. Okay. Crazy. Anyway. All right. So I fixed that. But yeah, my tea was iced over. It was funny.
It really didn't get as cold here as it did in Oklahoma City. I think our low here was only about 35.
Of course, Mike's probably laughing at us, but yeah, yesterday we were in the 60s in Wichita. We were out hiking and doing all this stuff. And this morning it was 11.
Yeah.
It's like
there.
Jets. So what's it there right now, Mike?
19 and sleet and earlier freezing rain, but no
boy,
no power outages.
Well, that's good. We'll knock on wood for you.
That's exactly why I don't live up there, Mike.
Yeah. We're ready. I got my generator gassed up and a bunch of cans. And
yeah.
We're supposed to get hit tomorrow. What is it? Tomorrow now?
In the morning it's supposed to be sleet and rain and ice and all that crap here.
Yeah.
In the morning's the first wave, I think. Is that right, Mike HXT?
Well, that's what I recall reading was that it was going to start in the morning and run through Thursday sometime with chance of rain, sleet, whatever.
Yeah, it's going to be
freezing.
It's going to be Friday before we have a half decent day.
Yeah.
Yeah, here's the weather forecast I get from Oklahoma County Emergency Management. Wednesday, sleet likely at the end of the morning, rush hour, 10 inches possible, ending by noon.
10 inches of sleet. Now, come on.
I'm sorry, 0.1 inches.
That sounds better.
0.1. Yeah, I didn't see the point in front of it there. I just saw the 10 inch. Yeah, 0.1 inches possible, ending by noon. Bitter wind chills, temperatures in the low 10s. Thursday, freezing drizzle and patchy freezing rain and sleet during the morning rush hour. A glaze is anticipated, temperatures in the 20s. So,
Well, I'm planning on not going anywhere till Friday.
my wife's got 2 doctor's appointments on Thursday, and like one at 8 and one at noon or something like that.
If they're smart, they'll cancel them.
Well, one of them called her today, and she asked that, they called to confirm the appointment. And she said, "So
Yeah.
y'all going to be there?" And the girl goes, "We never close."
Oh,
Yeah,
We
but
will be here. So we will see.
I would postpone it. It's not worth having a car wreck over.
yeah.
Well,
My dad's appointment last week, I can't remember if it was with his heart doctor or his eye appointment, got postponed. And I took him to his eye appointment yesterday.
Yeah.
we had one that got postponed a couple of weeks ago, or whenever it was when we had the snow. But
Yeah.
when they postpone it, then they squeeze you in the next, couple days
Yeah.
later. But when
We
you
spent-
postpone it, you go back to the bottom of the list, and it may be a month.
Yeah, we spent 3.5 hours there. We closed the place down, basically.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
They got a pretty good racket going though. They can charge exorbitant prices and make the customers come to them.
Yeah. And they made me take my cloth mask off and put a paper mask on. And I said, wait a minute, what's wrong with my cloth mask? And they said, well, CDC says those are no longer valid.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
N95 is valid,
But it's paper.
huh?
It's paper. It's not cloth.
Yeah. They always knew the cloth wasn't worth squat. I mean, I have a degree in industrial hygiene, and I could tell you the cloth ones weren't worth squat, but
Well,
they were
Better
the
than
only thing available. It was better than nothing. So
Better
that's
than
why they
work.
pushed them. My wife made them by the hundreds. It seemed
they
like.
wore cloth masks in Korea, in the hospital, in the OR.
Yeah.
They didn't have paper.
Nope. That's all they had back then. But
Yeah, cloth.
But it also depends on whether you're worried about inhaling something or giving away something. The makes a big difference in whether you're pulling a vacuum. And I mean,
Well,
really, to be effective,
see-
you need a good face to mask seal. And
You see this?
yeah,
That does not seal on any mask.
no, it doesn't. That's why at Xerox, people that had to wear respirators had to be clean shaven, at least in the mask area. You
Yeah.
could have a big beard down here, but you couldn't have it where I have mine. I just, but
Yeah.
it's, anyway, so I went, we went to Wichita. I stopped in Derby and stopped at the Radio Shack up there. I always have to stop in and chat with Mark. And
You find any bargains?
I'm kind of on a short leash right now. I've really been just running amok.
Well,
buying.
was there a bargain was there a bargain that you'll save till later?
He had a whole collection of Morse code keys.
Oh,
Several
no.
bugs and stuff that
Wow.
apparently, he got from an estate.
A lot of temptation there for you.
It was. I mean, he had several that were just, I had to just walk away. It was, I mean, I've got a bug and stuff, but he had quite more than I've ever seen him have
Mhm.
at one time. And he said there was an estate. He's halving his store. He's moving into if you've been up there, the door is kind of in the middle. Anyway, he's only going to have half of that here pretty soon. They're going to build a wall through there. He said his landlord has somebody he wants to rent half of that to, and made him an offer he couldn't refuse to go down to half. And
Yeah.
So he's actually kind of looking forward to it. He's really tired of putting in the miles he puts in that big store all the time.
Yeah.
So they're just going to condense everything down. And assured me he'll be at Claremore, and he's coming to Ham Holiday down here in July. So that'll give me an opportunity. I'm sure he'll still have a bunch of those keys, and I'll have a little longer leash by then. I just kind of got a little kind of overspent my there's a time spending thing, and part of it was Daryl with Okapa that passed away in his estate. There were some real good deals there, and I bought a couple keys, and I just bought a whole bunch of little stuff, but ICOM handy talkie, and just kind of got a little crazy. But would have spent more if some other people hadn't. He had an ICOM 7610 that was that they had a good price on, and I'd have taken it, but I got beat on that one. So
Hello, Bill.
Hello. How's
Yeah.
everybody tonight?
We're
we're
here.
doing well. Let's see, I need to.
Getting ready for the ice storm.
Yeah, that's what we were just talking about. It's gonna be going to be interesting, I think.
Well, they always are here in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that last storm we had was rare, where we just got snow. I mean, I don't remember very many just snowstorms. You know, we usually get the sleet and the freezing rain. And I was talking to a customer during that one, but over in Arkansas, and he said, "Man, we had an inch of sleet, then an inch of freezing rain, and now we're getting some more sleet." And I said, "Man, that's our song, here."
Now, I had kind of noticed that a lot of storms, particularly severe weather, seems to be moving farther to the east. And I saw that confirmed on some show I was watching on YouTube or something, where they had statistically looked at the fact that severe weather is moving farther to the east.
Well, I grew up in Kentucky, about 15 miles from Mayfield, where that big tornado hit a while back, and we always had tornadoes out there, but they were never that kind of tornado. They were little F1s, and I've seen it where they went down a street in a town there in Western Kentucky, and the houses on either side of the street, lost some roof and maybe had some busted windows. And then a block out, a little further out, they just had some broken windows, maybe a little siding torn off, and that was it. But almost never had a house taken to the ground.
Yeah.
And so,
Well,
hate to say it, but they can have them.
yeah. They attributed the fact, or at least part of it, and maybe all of it, to the fact of global warming. I don't know. Some people believe in that, some people don't. But
I'm sure it changes things.
yeah. And they were saying that seems to be the cause, but I had noticed that just looking at the tornadoes. Seems like we get fewer, and Arkansas and even farther to the east, you're getting a lot more tornadoes, bad tornadoes.
Well, that's the other thing. That Mayfield tornado was not necessarily on the ground, but it had a long track. And when I was a kid, and I've only been here 30 years, so I spent a lot of time in Western Kentucky, and the tornadoes didn't stay on the ground. They were just tiny, and they hit and they left. But which is good, because we had absolutely no warning. I tell this story. We had a place on Kentucky Lake, and there were 5 houses down at the end of this little cul-de-sac. And we built a gazebo down by the water where our docks were, and ran electricity down there. It was pretty upscale. And on the busy days when everybody was out on the lake drinking, we just stayed in. I mean, we could go out on Thursday. We didn't have to go out on Memorial Day. And so we would just sit in the gazebo and make margaritas and watch all the fools out there, trying to run over each other. But we were out there one day. We were down there one day because it was kind of stormy, and it was choppy, so we weren't going out on the lake. And we had a radio down there too, and so all of a sudden somebody goes, "Looky there!" And this tornado went right across the lake, about a mile or two south of us. You could, from where we were, you could just see it go right across the water, and a little F1 or something like that. And we went, "Wow, look at that!" About 15 minutes later, the radio came on and said, "Folks, be warned, there's a tornado headed toward Kentucky Lake."
The early warning system, huh?
It was halfway to Louisville by then, if it was still on the ground. But yeah, that was the warning we had, you know.
Well, I've been in Oklahoma most of my life, and I have never seen a tornado.
Really?
Actually seen one.
It's a
I don't
sight.
particularly want to, but you just,
What, Mike?
It's a sight to behold when you do.
Yeah.
You know, I swear
Especially
I
those
saw one.
Which
My grandmother lived outside of Cushing, and I swore that one time I swear in my memory, one time when I was a kid, probably 6 years old, 7 years old, the whole family was over there, and there were tornado warnings or whatever out, and it was all cloudy, and Grandpa had the cellar doors open in case we needed to get in there quick. But we were like out in the yard having a picnic. Wasn't raining or anything. And I swear I remember seeing a tornado. Somebody else, look at that. It just went almost across the horizon. But my mother in her later years said, "What are you talking about?" So I don't know. Maybe I saw a movie. I don't know, you know, when you're that age. But anyway, it was well, you know, they say that very few Oklahomans have seen a tornado because most of us are smart enough not to be out looking for them.
I don't know. And then there's the ones that are looking out the window to see where it's at.
Yeah.
well,
You
when we built this house, we built a storm shelter, a safe room in the house. So we don't have far to go. We can just, you know,
Yeah,
20 or 30 feet, and we're in a concrete box.
Mine's underground in the garage floor,
Yeah, that's good too.
so I don't have far to go.
Yeah,
Nope.
mine's a concrete box in my basement. So
Well,
got
you're double protected then.
yeah, it's way back in from my basement's a walkout, and it's way back in from the windows, and it's its own concrete box with a foot of concrete in the ceiling, and I feel pretty comfortable. I'm more worried about I'm as concerned about like the house collapsing or us not being able to get out. So I make sure it's registered with the fire department, and it's
You know, I'm not sure that ours is registered to the fire department. That might not be a bad idea.
Mine
it's,
is,
it's a good
Yours
idea,
is?
you
yeah.
know. I have,
Unless they lose the list between now and then.
well, the other thing, and my neighbors all know I have it. Actually, some of them will be over here with me, but their kids all know it's here. And
Yeah.
you know, if we don't show up in a day or two, eventually they'll come looking.
Yeah,
But
I didn't make it big enough, but the neighbors have frequently come over when it really looked like something was headed our direction, and it gets pretty crowded in there, especially when their kids are still at home.
The way I look at it, Bill, is you're not going to be in there very long.
no,
Well,
hopefully
that's
not.
true. That's true.
And I painted the door on mine orange, not because I love OSU, because I wanted something, if they start digging, I want them to be able to see that door, you know, through the rubble, you know, if they start digging around.
Yeah, well, you've got kind of a different situation because being in a basement, then all the house collapses into the basement, and you could get buried.
I had to think of everything. I put in ventilation, and you know,
Well, I pretty much think if you get hit hard, Sam, it's just going to sweep everything away from you.
Well, that's probably what's going to happen.
It's not going to fall down on you.
That's probably what's going to happen. Yeah, it's going to go away, and we're going to come out, and it's going to be like the apocalypse. Everything is going to be gone. My ham shack will be gone.
Yeah.
But
my youngest daughter and her husband and their kid was in that big tornado that hit Moore. They was in the high school when that happened, and they all went into the hallway and hunkered down. And whenever they came out after the tornado, they took pictures of the cars was just piled up like toy cars
Yeah.
everywhere.
You know, my barber, who's now retired and he cut my hair for years, he was at that same school, and they were
Oh,
like
is
in a
that right?
PTA meeting.
Yeah.
And he said that they got these warnings, and he said, well, all the women went somewhere. And he said he and a bunch of the men were standing in front of this big plate glass window and they could see the tornado coming.
Yeah.
And it was just coming. And he said, it was like, you were just hypnotized.
Well,
And he
this
said,
was-
finally, somebody said, we really shouldn't be here. This is not safe.
Not in front of
And-
a plate glass window for sure.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
they scuttled. Well, anyway, they never did find his car.
yeah.
It disappeared out of that parking lot,
Yeah.
and they never, as of the last time he cut my hair, which is 10 years later, they had never found, nobody had ever called and said, hey, we found a door panel or
There was
any part of his
there
car.
was cars on top of that hospital in Moore. They put them clear up on top of the building.
And it's, yeah, he figures his car is like somewhere in the woods in eastern Oklahoma or maybe Arkansas, and it's up in a tree somewhere, and just nobody's, in some desolate area or landed in a river. But
Yeah, that went right down the street, taking out houses where my father-in-law used to live.
Wow.
And it took those down to the slab,
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
just like a bulldozer had come in there and
I seen some of them where it even took up part of the slab.
yeah,
Took up the driveway for sure.
on Deer Creek, it pulled the grass out of the ground. I mean,
Oh yeah.
it does.
left dirt.
I flew over that area in a light plane, and you could see where the path was because it looked like the grass had been freshly mowed or something.
Mhm.
And I didn't really realize what had happened, but it actually sucked the grass,
Yep.
most of the grass right out of the ground.
Well, if it can
level
suck
with the
that
ground
concrete
anyway.
slab up, it can certainly suck the grass up.
Yep.
Yeah, you just don't think about it pulling pulling the leaves of the grass off like that, but it does. I saw a picture on the news the other evening of a straw stuck into a tree,
Yeah.
and
It would be okay if it just sucked up the weeds and left the grass.
yeah, I agree with you, Ken.
And yeah, and the other thing, the people it very rarely sucks up people. I mean, very few people are ever sucked, or it happens, but not very often. It's usually people are killed by flying debris. And actually, there's been a lot of studies that say a lot of the damage to houses comes from debris from the house next door, and it just keeps, as it goes by every house, it picks up more, and then that damages the houses more on down. And that's
There's
why
a tornado that came close to us here a few years ago. It was a EF4, and it took this farmer's barn. He farmed some of this Dale bottom land, and it completely tore that barn to the ground, and all of his equipment was strewn out into the field, combines and John
Really?
Deere tractors upside down. I mean, it wiped that thing out completely, and that was about 1.5 miles from our house.
So there was one a couple miles from my house down here when they had those tornadoes that there was a metal building that some oil company owned, and I never knew what was in it until the tornado came through, and it looked like it just lifted the building off. And after the tornado went through, there were all these barrels, all these drums stacked up on pallets,
Wow.
just like they'd probably been inside the building, but the building was gone. Just a concrete slab with pallets of barrels on
So
it.
one of them drums weren't scattered all over the place.
Yeah, it's really weird. It was. I drove by it several times going, what the?
I can still see damage here from that tornado. I don't know, it's 3 or 4 years ago. It was an EF4, and in Shawnee, it went across the I-10 40 at Highway 177. It's kind of an overpass there. And there was a truck on that overpass, and it went right across that, and it killed a person in that truck. And that was the only fatality that I knew of out here.
There's that same storm. There was an old Piedmont water tower out that way. It's out west of us, and it's got a big. I took a picture of it. I may still have it here on my phone, but anyway, it has a dent probably 75 feet up the side of this water tower. It's one of those just straight column water towers, and nobody I ever talked to had any idea what. We used to joke about a school bus, from that movie or a cow. Flew into that.
It's probably a cow.
Flew into that water tower and dented it. But
it would take something with some mass to put a dent in a.
Yeah. Especially if it had water in it.
Really.
How would you compress that water?
And I don't know in those cylinders like that if they're full of water all the way up or if that's just a facade around the outside.
I'm sure I'm sure they have a little bit of space at the top, but I would think they'd be at least 2/3 or 3/4 full.
Yeah, I'm sure they try to keep them pumped, reasonably full.
Yeah.
Because the power goes out, that's kind of the backup water supply for a while.
Yeah. I know I wouldn't want to live close to one of them.
I don't know. When I grew up, there was one much larger around than that one is, just a block from our house. And we used to climb up to the top of it when we were kids and look down. You could look down into it. You could see the water, but we never knew how far down the water went. The water could have only gone down halfway, but I also know that there were pumps because you could hear the pumps in the base somewhere down there. There were pumps. So obviously the water cylinder didn't go all the way to the ground.
Yeah.
There was a room down in under. Actually, there was like a door type thing, and you could hear the pumps in there running. But some kids used to claim they got in there and swam, but I was never gutsy. When it had a ladder, it went down into the water through that.
Oh,
hatch.
really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm surprised at how come they didn't have a lid on that thing.
It did, but I mean, it wasn't. It wasn't that hard to get open. It was wasn't like it had 20 bolts around, like a flange, because it didn't hold any pressure or anything. It was just a hatch thing that you opened up. But I climbed up it a couple of times, but not much on heights even back then.
To get your top section in, Bill?
I did. And believe it or not, they made it right this time.
All right.
Third one was a charm.
About
But
time.
I did tell you that the guy admitted that they had a problem
Yeah.
and blamed it on the welder.
So did he give you a refund?
No, but he didn't charge me any extra. I mean, it was I didn't pay for any of them except the first one,
Good to know.
and no additional shipping charges, nothing.
Yeah.
So the only thing I paid for was the first one and the shipping for the first one,
Yeah.
and he ate the additional tower sections.
Did he let you keep the other two pieces?
Yeah, he didn't want them back.
Yeah.
I mean,
It was pay the shipping. Yeah.
well,
I didn't make
I
any
mean,
money off that one.
No,
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any way to salvage them.
you could use it for something else.
Yeah, I thought that they'd be ideal for somebody that wanted to put a antenna on their roof and make a. It wouldn't be very complicated to make a roof mount for that thing.
Well, or you could, if you put up a inverted V, you could place them out at the ends of the inverted V, put them in the ground out there, and that way the ends of the center of your inverted V is going to be at 40 feet or close to that. so the ends could be 8 or 10 foot up. If you plant that thing in the ground 30 inches and come down to that, that would be just about right.
Hadn't thought of that. Good idea, Ken.
And that way you won't have to dig up some other pieces of steel or something to hold up the ends of that wire. And you can put them where you want to. You don't have to depend on a tree or something.
True. Yeah. I don't know how that aluminum would hold up in the ground. I guess I could prime it and paint it, the part
Yeah.
that was going to be in the ground.
Yeah, you could
Paint it with epoxy paint or something like
Yeah,
that. That
some
would.
kind of anti-rust paint or something, but
Well, if that's
I wouldn't-
aluminum, it should last.
yeah, 100 years. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't cement it in because you might want to move it.
Right. No, I wouldn't go to the trouble of cementing it in.
But 30 inches down, that would work plenty and give you about the right amount up.
Yeah, it would 30 inches in the ground would, and if I wanted, if I wanted it higher, it's got that
Yeah,
tube on the top that
Yeah.
got the bolts in it to clamp a
yeah,
short mast in if I wanted to.
that's right.
Well, I put my, I use top rail, chain link fence top rail for my
Yeah,
20-foot pole out there that holds the end of my half wave.
yeah,
And I ended up, I had a piece of drill pipe and I cemented it into the ground, and then that top rail just slides down
Yeah.
in it like a sleeve. And
That's
if
a
I
good
ever sell
idea.
the place or want out of there, I'd put it all at ground level, all the concrete at ground level. I'll just pull that out.
yep.
They'll just go, wonder what this little concrete pad with a piece of pipe in it is,
Just tell them it's an umbrella stand.
Yeah. But at them, if they even notice it, if the grass, I mean, I didn't cement in
Yeah,
about a foot around it. So, and it was 2 feet deep. So it's pretty steady. Oh my gosh. Hello.
Well, to get rid of that pipe that I cemented in, they're going to have to take a cutting torch and cut it off level with the concrete.
yeah. That's the way I feel about it. And then put
Yeah.
some dirt on top of it.
Yeah, that's
I'm not
Yeah,
going to
that-
worry about it.
I'm not either.
That's somebody else's problem.
that or a good sawzall. Just
Yeah,
take it off right to the top of the concrete.
Yeah, you'd have your hands full with a sawzall on that pipe.
yeah.
That's
3.5 inch diameter and
no, it was 4.5 inch
4.5.
diameter,
And what's the
Yeah.
wall thickness?
1/4 inch wall thick.
Yeah,
I mean, it was more pipe than I wanted, but it was the pipe that they had that I could get.
yeah.
So
It's strong enough.
yeah, I don't think I'm going to pull it over.
I don't think so either.
Not with that aluminum tower anyway. And I got that those aluminum pieces. That's what I've been doing this afternoon. I've been down at my brother's machine shop, machining those aluminum pieces to make that adapter
Yeah,
I think I got all that done. So I think I finally got everything in hand to finish it up. I don't think I'm waiting on anything right now.
Cool.
waiting on the weather right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have some nasty weather, but I can go out and shop tomorrow and take that new section of tower and get the rotor mounted and everything lined up and ready to just plug into the sections that are out there.
Yeah, I've seen guys mount the rotor right at the ground and run the pipe all the way up through the top. And, that's a lot of mass, but it would sure be easy to work on your rotor.
Yeah,
So
That's true,
I
but-
understand why they're doing it, but I didn't
Well-
do that. But
all I've got to do is pull some bolts out and
yeah, lean it over.
lean it over,
Yeah,
and I can get to it's been a lot of work, a lot more work than I ever anticipated,
Yeah.
which is typical of my projects, but
Yeah.
it's nearing the end.
Yeah.
It's
It
it's
took me a
getting
long
there.
time to do mine too, and I pretty much did it all by myself.
Well, I've had some help. I've got a guy that helps me. I mean, I hire, he's a friend of mine. He does all of keeps our yard mowed and all that. But he's really a good worker and pretty sharp. I do have something I've been working on. I'll show you here. This is the
Yeah,
plate that goes inside the box, that weatherproof box that I bought.
man, that's looking good.
And I've got that deal at the bottom that's got the lightning arrestor mounted
Yeah.
on it.
I
Yep.
see it.
Has room for at least two more, maybe if I offset that one, I probably could get four on there. And then in the upper corner up there is a device I made, which is a surge suppressor for the rotator.
Yeah.
It's got
Mm-hmm.
MOVs and
Uh-huh.
gas discharge tubes on it.
That's a good idea.
It's got 35 volt MOVs and 65 or 70 volt
Wow.
gas discharge units on it. And so that's all mounted, and I've had it in the box. There's the hole where the pipe coming from the house goes through.
Where the cable's gonna go through.
Yep. So the cable will come up. In the box, there's a 2.5-inch fitting right below this
Yeah.
connector. So the coax will come straight into this connector
Mm-hmm.
from the pipe.
Gotcha.
And that box is really nice. It's got two stainless steel latches on it and a rubber seal all around
Is it a
the
metal
outside.
box or plastic
No,
box?
it's a plastic box, but
Yeah.
it's pretty heavy duty, and it
Yeah.
wasn't that expensive.
Well,
And
I've
that's the
used
size.
I've used a metal box up on my 2-meter moon bounce setup, electrical metal box, and that sucker rusted. So after that, I decided I'd rather have a plastic box.
Well, I looked at the metal boxes. There's a ham that builds those metal boxes. That's either his side business or his main business or his retirement business. I'm not sure, but they're expensive. I mean, and he puts a plate in them
Yeah.
for you, but you're talking, $300 or more for his boxes.
Yeah. Well, whenever I built this 70-centimeter moon bounce antenna, I took all the guts out of that metal box and put them in a plastic box.
Now, if anybody's interested in that plastic box, it's down in my shop, or should have brought it up and showed you the box. Maybe I'll do that next week if it's not already mounted. Hopefully it already be mounted to the side of the house by then.
Well, you can take a picture of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm anxious to see pictures of this whole thing once you get it up.
Mounted, yeah.
Get that antenna up there.
So where do I post the pictures? On QRZ?
Oh, you can just,
You could put them on your QRZ page, yeah.
yeah. Or just hold them up here in front of the camera.
There you go.
You can put them on the Discord page.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
I've got
Yeah.
a few pictures on QRZ page. That's not a bad place to put them.
Yeah, I've looked at your QRZ page.
I went with the plastic box on mine on the outside of the house too. And it just, for the price and the weather seal on it, seemed so much better than any of the metal I looked at.
But plastic box will last a long time. It won't rust.
I've got one sitting here on the shelf, and I can't remember why I bought two. Somehow I ended up,
Well, you're always supposed to have a backup, Sam.
yeah. I think this was the first. I can't remember squat anymore. I hate to say, but I think I bought this one first, and it wasn't quite as big as I decided I wanted, so I bought another one, and it was too late to return this one. So I figured it'll just be in my estate sale, you know.
Yeah. These boxes, this box I bought, they make, I bought the biggest one, which is, you can see from the size of that plate, it's about ID wise, it's probably 12 inches wide and about 16 inches high. But they make smaller, incrementally smaller boxes of the same design. And I bought it off of Amazon, I think, with the idea that if I didn't like it, I'd just send it back. But I really liked it. It's really a well-made box. It's
Well, now I remember why I didn't like this one. It didn't have anything anywhere on the back. I was coming out of the house, and it didn't have anywhere on the back here that was easy to penetrate. And the second one I found had a flange that came out where I just glued my pipe right into the.
You know, that looks like very much like the same box I've got. I bet you a quarter it's the same brand. Does that have a rubber O-ring around the?
Yeah, it's got rubber all the way around, and
yep, that's it. That's the box I've got.
What size is that one, Sam? Just guess at it.
6x8.
Well, I got the big brother of that one, but that's the same brand. I'm convinced that's the same brand. Did that have a plastic insert? No, it's got different latches. Mine has.
Yeah, this one's got plastic latches on it. But
mine has stainless steel latches on it with a deal where you can put a lock in it if you want to. But other than that, the boxes look almost identical.
Yeah. It's a nice box, and I'll find some use for it. It just, on the sides, I'll get where you can see it. It'd be real easy to punch a hole and, put conduit into it. But
that's what I did. I punched a hole right in the bottom of it and put an adapter for the 2-inch PVC. So the PVC will run all the way to the box uninterrupted. Hopefully no chance of getting any water down in it from that end. I don't think anyway.
Well, I don't have a box on the outside of mine. The coax comes right up out of the ground, takes a 90 and goes through the wall, and then so there's no box outside.
Do you have a lightning arrestor out there? Or?
No.
Yeah, see, I did look. I've got lightning arresters mounted in mine, and on a brass bar.
You could mount them on the tower because your coax is underground. So, I mean, Bill says, I don't know about yours, Sam. But.
No, mine just goes right over to the. Trying to see if I had there's a. See if we can get where you can see it. There's a picture of my box open. Can you all see
it.
that?
We can't see it.
Get it up close enough where you can.
Oh, got a little thing there.
Yep.
Lightning arresters mounted on that brass bar, and then it also had those little finger things in the bottom with felt where my coax just goes out because it just goes right over to my antennas. They're both within 6 feet of it. So, but
well, that looks very much like mine's going to look.
Yeah, I've got double lightning arresters because I've got those two out there, and then I've also got my my switches in here they're also alpha deltas, and they've got lightning arresters built into them. So I've got two in line on both
I think they call them lightning arrestor, but I think that's probably a misnomer.
Yeah.
I have alpha delta also inside, but I just unhook my I unhooked my radios from the
That-
antennas.
That's probably the only safe way to protect your radios. Because if you get a direct strike, man, it's
Yeah,
Well,
probably
my
gonna,
Alpha Deltas have that off position, and
Yeah.
between that and a little pill in there, I feel pretty safe putting it on.
that will work if you don't get a direct hit. If you get a
And,
direct hit, it's all cooked.
yep.
Well, like before we go on a long camping trip, I actually go outside and I unhook mine outside out in that box off of
Yeah.
where they come into there.
That's a
And,
good idea.
You know, if I'm going to be gone for,
Yeah. I unhooked my 60-foot vertical and ground it to the ground.
got a buddy that says you just put the end of the coax in a glass jar and you're perfectly
Yeah.
safe.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's kind of my answer. Yeah, right. He goes, well, I've been a ham for 40
Safe
years.
from what?
Yeah. He said, I've been a ham for 40 years. It's always worked for me. Well,
Means
can I
he
say?
just hadn't got hit.
yeah, no kidding.
That's called luck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I don't want to get too paranoid, but on the other hand, you know, and you know, I turn my switches in here to the off position every day when I'm done transmitting. You know, I don't ever leave them. My radio's connected to an antenna, and
Yeah, you know, it doesn't take very much to knock out the front end of a transceiver.
no, I honestly worry more about these modern computerized radios we're using versus the old tube type. I think they were maybe
Yeah,
a little more.
all of our radios nowadays are the modern
Yeah,
type. It's going to be knocked out easy.
I think so too. But like, yeah,
You know, in Oklahoma in the springtime, you can't leave your house and not know if a thunderstorm's going to come up while you're
Yeah.
gone or not.
absolutely.
So you best do something.
Yeah,
I think unplugging and unscrewing the coax from the radio is probably
The safest thing.
the only way you'd save the radio
Yeah.
if you got a hit. I did have a tree in our front yard that got a direct hit
Yeah.
and blew the bark off the tree and went all the way to the ground. And that tree is probably, 50, 60 foot from the house at least. And it knocked out a router in the house.
Yeah.
That was the only thing that it got, but it did get a router.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I've had a couple routers go out after storms, and I've got all sorts of surge protectors. And I think it's coming in off the it's catching the Cox line. It's coming in from outside the house, coming in that way.
I know for a fact that
But,
when I got hit one time, it came in through the underground phone line because it blew the box off the side of the house.
yeah, I think you got some good evidence there.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was 30 feet from the house.
Man.
Of course, I found, you know, I've got Cox cable. I've got underground.
Your audio went again, Ken.
Oh, great. Hello, test.
Still gone.
Test.
There, you're back now.
I don't know what's going on. This silly thing. Got another camera I'm going to try one of these days. But it don't mount as good on top of the monitor as this one does.
Well, I want whatever Mike's got down there that makes that neat background blur. Figure out how he does that.
Just check blur.
On what?
Your camera on the
Oh, okay.
under video, you click that little thing on the right-hand side of the camera and go to choose virtual background.
Okay. I'm there.
And then choose blur.
Below your picture, there's a none and a blur. Here, I'll uncheck my blur.
Okay.
Now, is that software that came with the camera that you're checking?
No, it's
It's the software in the
Zoom software.
Oh,
Zoom.
okay. Okay, gotcha.
So you can either, like if you have a green screen, you can check that down there, or you can mirror your video. But that's all I did was hit blur.
See, I have a green screen, mirror my video,
Yeah.
and the thing that says studio effects,
Right. Yeah, you can play
but
with
I
that.
don't see a blur anywhere.
Are you into Zoom software or the camera
Yeah,
software?
I'm in Zoom.
Well, maybe you need to scroll up to the top. Do you see where it says none?
Look under virtual backgrounds, not video filters.
Right. I'm in virtual backgrounds.
Okay. And nothing shows up under it.
I have a green screen and mirror my videos.
Okay. It's just
Oh,
right
wait a
below.
minute. All right. There it is. But look what it is.
There.
Hey, you're blurry.
You found
Yeah.
it.
I hadn't scrolled up. I didn't know I was at
I told you to scroll up.
Yeah, I'm a little
Where is
slow.
it you're checking to get to these controls?
Down on the lower left, there's a little video camera, and mine right now says stop video under it.
Don't hit the camera, but hit the little up arrow just to
Yeah.
the right of that. That opens a menu.
The
Yeah, I
lower
like
left
that.
corner.
Lower left corner. I don't
Not
know
all
if
the
you
way
have-
in the corner. There's
you have
mute,
your
and then there's
screen set up on I've got my video on full screen, so that's the only thing I can see in the lower left corner.
Oh, okay. I just had to drag the mouse down there and now it shows up.
Yeah.
I've got one that says stop video and one that says mute.
Okay, where it says stop video, to the right side of that is an up arrow.
Yeah.
Click that up arrow.
Oh,
Then
okay.
then choose virtual background.
Okay. Yeah. Blur. Yeah. How about that? Learned something.
oh no, it just gives you this kind of, I don't know, religious look, like this holy look. Wouldn't it? I don't know. Yeah, I like that. Try that for a while.
Here's my Arizona sunset shot. I'll just use that for a while.
Wow.
How's that look?
Looks good.
Took that in Arizona.
Looks good.
What is the other mic doing? He's in pirate mode here.
Yeah, I didn't see that. I didn't see that selection on mine, Mike, where you had an eye.
Filters, same page as the blur.
Oh,
Check
yeah.
filters. There's all
Really?
kinds of dumb stuff. I'm gonna go back to normal.
Well,
How do you do that?
mine only has none under filters. I guess you have to load those or something.
Yeah, that's what mine said. Did I want to load the filters? But I didn't think I'd do that right now. I'll do that some other time.
I haven't messed with filters, but yeah, I loaded the background.
Yeah, I guess that's what it said.
I have a folder on my hard drive that I put those backgrounds in, and then I can pick whichever one I want.
Well, that's really a pretty one you've got up there now. Very,
Number
very
one.
impressive.
My granddaughter loves doing that when we're FaceTiming. She loves to put cat faces on people. Oh, all that stuff. So,
I like this deer shot here. I took that at the salt plains up north of Enid,
mhm.
and that was a 2-page spread in Outdoor Oklahoma magazine.
Wow.
Wow.
Is that taken with a long lens, Ken?
Yeah, it was a 500 millimeter f4 Nikkor lens,
Ooh,
and,
ouch.
and that was with Kodachrome 64 slide film.
Okay, I gotta go, guys.
Okay,
Mike,
Mike.
stay warm. Go stoke the fire.
I will do that. Propane's kicking in. All right. Good night,
Shovel,
everybody.
shovel the
Up to
snow off.
$4 a gallon. So, yeah.
Not quite, but after Putin gets done with me, maybe.
Yeah, we went up. We do these little day trips. One of our favorite ones is up to the Tallgrass Prairie up north of Pawhuska,
Been there.
and see all the buffalo up there. And we were up there a week or so back and did a little hiking. I got a couple little nature trails we'd hike. And anyway, we saw actually about as many deer as we saw buffalo up there, and there were a lot of buffalo, but there were a lot of deer.
Yeah.
And,
That's a neat place to go. Everybody should go up there at least once in their lifetime and check that out.
yeah.
And where is it, Ken?
It's Tallgrass Prairie. It's just north of Pawhuska, Oklahoma.
Go to Pawhuska and just go north out of town through the big arch. You go through, it says Tallgrass Prairie, and drive up there, on up there.
Well,
miles.
I don't want to seem stupid, but where's Pawhuska?
It's north of Tulsa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, kind of northwest of Tulsa, north of Pawnee,
Yeah.
up there. But yeah, it's beautiful
In
up there.
Osage County.
And I'll tell you, the first time we went up there, we were driving down the road looking for buffalo, and it's a big place. There's, quite a bit of, and we come up over this hill, and suddenly off to the left, there must have been 500 buffalo. I mean, it was just awe-inspiring. And I pulled the truck over on the side of the road. We actually climbed up on top of the truck, and
Yeah.
they were, I mean, just as far as the eye could see out across this valley and then up these hills, there were bison. I call them buffalo.
One
And I
time
thought, this is what the Native Americans
Yeah,
saw.
that's right.
These vast plains with this is all natural prairie grass and with these buffalo. I mean,
We seen one
amazing.
time in Yellowstone a herd of buffalo that were stampeding, and we was it was way in the northern part, and we just stopped, and there was a pull over there, and we just stopped and stampeded buffalo, and then before long there was half a dozen cars there stopped watching them. That's something you just don't see every day.
yeah, when we were there, every time you saw a buffalo, there'd be 10,000 cars. It
Yeah.
was incredible, but
So
the people. But
what I'm talking about was a long ways from where you was at. You was in the high traffic area.
yeah, but that's just the way Yellowstone was when we were there. Every time there was anything, there could be one buffalo and there'd be 10,000 people there watching it.
Yeah,
It was
like they never seen a buffalo before.
well, maybe they haven't, and of course my thing was, oh, it's just a buffalo.
Yeah.
I can drive an hour from Oklahoma City and see a lot of buffalo.
Yeah.
But
The tourists up there will get out and try to go up to those buffalo. They don't realize how dangerous buffalo are.
Yeah.
well, they ranger down at Wichita Mountains told me the same thing. He said they get gored. People get gored
Yeah.
every year, try to get up, and they wanted their picture took leaning on a buffalo, and
Yeah.
and they seem slow, and
Buffalo are not cows.
no.
I see that in all the time up there in Yellowstone, and people get out of their car with a little point and shoot camera or a camera on a phone and try to get real close to them, and they're putting their self and their whole family in danger by doing that.
Absolutely.
If you
And
want to
bears.
photograph them, you need a 300 or 500 millimeter lens so you don't have to get close to them.
I'll tell you, we were in Smoky Mountains one time years ago, and the road was up high, and then there was this grassy hillside that went down about 30 feet, and it plateaued out, and then woods. And there was a baby bear down there. And people were parking alongside the road, going down that 30-foot embankment
Wow.
with their little cell phones,
Yes.
trying to get up close to that, get a picture of that baby bear.
Yeah.
And my son wanted to go down. He was about 14 at the time, and he wanted to go down. I said, no. I said, there's a baby bear there. There's a mama bear just back in the woods, bear, where she can watch.
And same thing with them moose. We ran into that at the Teton Mountains.
Yeah.
There's a big lake there by the Teton Mountains, and there was a mama moose and her baby there, and all these people were crowding around there trying to take pictures. And I told this woman, I said, you better not get between that baby and that mama, but she didn't listen to me. And that mama moose charged her, and she took off running, and naturally she fell down. She didn't get anywhere before she fell down. Scared the crap out of her. Mama moose stopped, but I hope that lady learned a lesson.
I bet she remembers that to this day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to a guy up in Laramie. Where's that, Wyoming?
Yeah.
Anyway, I got talking to this guy in a Walmart, and he was telling me about he was out hiking and almost walked into a moose, and this moose started to chase him. And he said, he finally like got to this tree and went around the tree, and the moose ran right by him. The moose just kept going. But he said, man, till one's chasing you don't just really realize how fast and how big those suckers are, you know. He said, pretty scary.
We was hiking one time, and we met 3 big old moose coming down the trail toward us. We got off the trail and let them have it.
Yeah.
They just walked on by. But
well, I'll tell you one more story here. I'm looking for a picture here, but we were down the Wichita Mountains, and we've been on this pretty long hike, and we were back on the road going back to our truck. And I didn't realize it was only like a mile to our truck, but it was like almost straight uphill. And I was just about to drop because we'd been hiking quite a bit. And anyway, suddenly there's this longhorn steer standing right smack in the middle of the road where we need to go. And so he was just kind of standing there, and then he went over and he kind of nibbled off one side, and he went over to the other side and nibbled. And so I didn't mind resting. So we just kind of stood there, and, I wasn't going to try to challenge him, and I don't know I grew up around a lot of cows. They were pretty docile, but not longhorn steers. And he had antlers on him. I mean, antlers, horns. I'm trying to find a picture here. So we just waited, and finally he wandered off into the woods. Well, we went on up the road, and our truck, we had to go up and then turn down this road. And we start down the road to where our truck was actually parked at this picnic area. And I'll be darned if he wasn't standing right between us. He'd cut through the woods. We went up around on the road, and he was standing right between us and our truck. And still a long way away, but just standing there looking at us. And my wife says, so what do we do? And I said, I don't know. I mean, I've always learned you give them the path, whatever, but our truck was there and we were here, and he was right in the middle. You're
supposed to say to her, you go up there and shoo him off.
Well, she asked me, she said, hope she hadn't listened. She said, do you think if he comes our way, we climb up on this picnic table? And I said, as big as that steer is, big as that cow is, he'll walk right up there after us. That won't slow him down at all. And
his horns is long enough to reach it.
Anyway, we finally just sat there and just sat there and looked at him. He looked at us, and we tried to kind of make a big path around him, and he just wander over and get in between us again, And finally he got tired of waiting on us, I guess. And he just wandered off into the woods. And as soon as he got a little bit clear, we scurried down and got in the truck. But I asked one of the rangers, we saw a little ranger. I told him about that. He said, yeah, he said mostly they're pretty docile. I mean, could be either way. He could have been thinking maybe you were going to feed him a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or you just never know what he was thinking. But you did the right thing. Just let him have his space. And God, where is that picture? But we actually drove out and we came back later and he was laying right next to where our truck had been. He was laying in that picnic area. And oh my gosh, he was just massive. I mean, it was scary. He was so big. Where's that?
One time we was in Custer's National Park, and I was hoping I might be able to get a picture of some of them wild mules. And little did I know is them suckers come right up to you and wanted you to feed them. So
Yeah.
there was no problem getting a picture.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hello, Ken. I guess he's trying to get it going.
Well, Mark muted the mic, so. Where is
You got that? You got audio, Ken? Can you hear us? Can you hear us, Ken? We can't hear you at all. No audio.
He can probably hear us. He just he's hoping we'll talk bad about him.
I know what. See, he's trying to use that remote piece, and it's muted on the computer probably.
Well, it looks like the Zoom is muted. It's got that little,
Yeah.
Yeah. Try pushing the space bar, Ken.
We need a sign.
Try. Give me some kind of sign.
Oh, Mark's there.
Yeah.
It's still muted. Zoom is still muted. He's
Yeah, I
showing
think
us
they-
something.
I think they need to go into the Zoom setup and unmute it, right?
Yes.
He got his 3D printer,
Yeah.
and that looks like something he may have printed. Okay, something goes in the bottom, screws in there. Try that again. Yeah, you're real echoey. I don't know if that thing's working or if it's coming through the computer. Yeah.
Look up at the screen, Ken.
You have the wrong mic.
Okay, he did it.
Now we can hear way in the background something, but
How about now?
that's
Yeah,
great.
gotcha.
All right.
Go for it.
So you made a 45 record with
Yeah,
a,
that's it. And I realized that, 4 or 5 CD-ROMs, CDs glued
Yeah.
together, you could make a pretty good little guide plate for your antenna. But I put a kind of hard to see, I guess. Yeah, there.
Well, we can see it.
That's a little rain hat for the SO239. When I
Yeah.
put that in there and
Mhm.
screw the coax up in it, it should run the rain off the side and down and around it. So I don't have to
pretty
tape it up.
Pretty slick, Ken.
It's a little bit messed up, but mostly still functional. But first time it didn't quite stick, and my bed leveling isn't quite perfect. So
I don't
I'm
know that
already
it
getting
has
ready
to
to
be
change the firmware.
I don't think it has
For
to
the
be
auto,
perfect for that.
the auto assist manual leveling thing. But anyway, it's been fun.
let me know how that works. I've never I've read about it, but I've never had the guts to do it on mine.
Well, it just automatically spots your locations so that you can manually adjust it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, for now, that's all. Later, maybe the
Yeah.
probe. But and already looking at a new hot end, direct drive hot end. And
Oh my gosh, you just got
yeah,
the
you buy a $200 printer and then there's $800 worth of upgrades.
Yeah.
Anyway,
We gotta have
That was
these
fun.
toys.
just wanted to share that.
That's cool.
We appreciate it.
Back out here and do my work and harass some others. I guess tonight's the first night of the technician class.
Yeah, I just saw a
More, so-
picture on Facebook. Looks like they've got 4 students, and
Uh-oh.
in the
Well,
picture it
that'll-
looks like 4 students, and looks like Mark Klein is preaching.
Maybe they'll pick up a few more. It'll be a nice, comfortable, little friendly class then.
It is quite cold. So.
I don't know. I've got week 3 or 4. I don't know which it is.
Yeah, let's see. 4 folks and Mark right now. So, but
I was about halfway ready just to stay home tonight and Zoom, but my daughter cooked dinner early so I could come down here. So
I thought you said
maybe I should.
thought you were going to say she cooked dinner, so you got the heck out of there.
Oh, no, it was worth the wait.
Well, we just got back in from Wichita. I just wasn't about to drive all the way down to Norman. Drove all I want to drive right now.
Yeah, driving across town is no fun, is it? Especially after on the way home.
Yeah. Oh, about ready to sleep, actually.
So where do you live, Sam?
I live in, well, it's just south of Piedmont, really. I mean,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
actually in Oklahoma City, but
Halfway to Enid from Norman.
it takes me, to get down to Elmer Night, it takes, at that time of day, it takes me close to an hour. I mean, depending on, as long as nobody does something stupid, sometimes it can take an hour and a half.
About 50 miles or so.
Yeah, well, coming home is right at 40 minutes, but by then there's no traffic. So I'm guessing 40 miles, just roughly. But
I found that if I wait from 5:30 to 6:15, it only takes me a half hour to get here. So I save 45 minutes and I'm 15 minutes late.
Yep, I figured that out too, that I'm better off leaving late. And so what if I'm 5 minutes late to Elmer Night? I mean, it doesn't make that much difference, but it
Miss some
saves a
of the
lot of
traffic.
time and a lot of frustration.
Miss that traffic.
So,
Well, I think I'm gonna go out here and see what I can do.
alrighty, have fun. Good to
Y'all
see
be
you.
good.
Be sure and mute that thing.
There it goes. All right. So that works good when they just use that that microphone,
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
you can
doesn't
turn
pick
it
up-
off.
Doesn't pick up a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah. I'll say this, that blur doesn't make me look any skinnier. Wish it did, but
Oh, they probably got an app for that.
Have to look for a thin man app.
sure they've got a fat man app. Maybe I've got that turned on by accident. Go look.
Hey, Mike, did you been working any DX?
Yeah, I did. I worked a few today.
What band?
Europe. Let me look. I think about them right here. I started with Panama this morning on 15. Got Spain on 15. And then I went to 12 and I got South Africa. And 17, I got Puerto Rico.
Yeah, you're doing
on my
good.
DX.
You're doing good. Pretty
Pardon?
amazing. Pretty amazing to work South Africa on
And,
low power.
and that was 50 watts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still get stuff going on in the shack if I run in more than 50 watts
Yeah.
on some frequencies.
What kind of antenna are you running, Mike?
Right now it's a end-fed wire. It goes down the fence to the north and then it makes the right-hand turn and goes west.
And it's not very high off the ground either.
6 feet above the ground. And that's what I'm using. I need to take it out to the corner of the yard and run the wire back this way over the house. At least make a slanted antenna out of it that way.
I copied VU2XYL several times in the past few days on 12 meters, and that's a female ham in Hong Kong.
Oh,
She cannot hear me. I've called her for 30 minutes today, and she calls CQ North America, and she works a lot of North American stations on the West Coast, but she's not working any fives.
huh.
She definitely can't hear me, but
I
I can
guess-
hear her. She got a good signal here in
Yeah.
Oklahoma, but I'm not running an amplifier or anything, so
Yeah,
a lot of them guys are running 500 watt amplifiers, but I just run 65, or I run 80 watts down on 40 and 80 meters, but on the higher bands, I only run about 65 watts. But I need a few more countries on. I need 3 more countries on 40 meters to have 100 countries there for DXCC.
wow.
And I need 13 more on 80 meters. And then I'll have 5 band DXCC. I've got 5 bands right now, but not the bands that the ARRL wants.
Yeah,
And when you get close to 100, it's hard to find a country that you haven't worked before.
yeah. I've noticed that Uruguay and Brazil,
In
most of the
Paraguay,
time, there's a Uruguay and Brazil most of the time have an operator on.
yeah.
And Puerto Rico has a lot of them.
It's as far from here to Uruguay as it is to Europe.
Yeah,
So, don't sell it short if you're working South America, because Uruguay is more than 5,000 miles from here.
yeah.
Yeah, my son flies to Chile on business, and he says, you think it's just right down there. It's not.
No,
It's
Depends
like
on-
flying to Europe.
it depends on where you're going in Chile. Sam.
Yeah, that's true,
Chile
too.
covers the whole
It is huge.
west side of South America and goes all the way down almost to the tip. So that's a long country.
Yeah, it is.
Big place, but yeah, he
Narrow
flies out of like
mountains and-
Miami, and it's like a 12-hour flight wherever he goes from.
I just recently seen information about there's a long flight from London to Sydney, Australia. It takes 24 hours, and it has one stop in Dabu. Can't remember how to pronounce it. And that's it, man. That'd be a long haul. I can't believe that you could do that flight.
Yeah.
It's even further than from here to Singapore, Bill.
I think his flight to Chile got a little shorter when we got unhostile with Cuba, because they don't have to. They used to like have to circle around Cuba, go further to not get into Cuban airspace. And now they can
Yeah, they're
Well, we had to-
gonna,
cut through there.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, but we had to fly around Cuba when we went to Jamaica, but that's no big deal for them. Yeah, they're not supposed to fly over Cuban airspace.
Yeah, I think that's gone away.
I don't know if it has or not.
I think they've got agreements now to let them, the commercial
Mhm.
airliners overfly Cuba.
I guess it's saving a little fuel.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think he said his flight, it cut an hour or something off his flight to Chile, not having to fly around, making a wide berth around.
I remember one time when we flew from Dallas to Oklahoma City, there was having some bad weather in Oklahoma City, and the pilot flew all the way around Tulsa and came back in, and it still only took us 55 minutes airtime.
Used to,
yeah, those long flights can
Oh, yeah.
wear you down.
yeah.
Dubai, that's
Yeah, Dubai,
that's the only stop that made from London to Sydney.
London to Sydney, man, that's
Yeah,
a haul.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, I've always thought I wanted to go to Australia, but that's from
That's
here.
a haul.
Yeah.
Yeah. I worked this ham recently. Matter of fact, they just confirmed it yesterday, but he's a VK6, and VK6 is on the other side of Australia at Perth, Australia, and it's 10,500 some miles. That's a long haul.
Mhm. Be okay if you could afford first class.
Yeah.
Maybe get one of those pod things where you.
First class is about 5 times more expensive than I could pay.
Yeah. Years
Well-
ago, wife and I went to Europe, and I thought I was being really smart. I got the front row of tourist class, and because there was nobody in front of you, so nobody's going to lean back, and you had more leg room. I'd done all this reading, and I thought, well, that's the place to be. The bad part is there was this curtain in the wall there between us and first class, and the whole thing while we're sitting there eating a little ham sandwich, they're passing out. I can see them and hear them clinking champagne bottles.
Yeah, and eating steak.
On the other side of that curtain. Yeah. But sure couldn't afford to fly then, first class then. Think about it now. Maybe
I got an
some.
upgrade one time to first class. We flew from Singapore to Japan and laid over in Japan, and they called my name, and I thought, oh crap, they're going to cancel my flight or something. But instead I went up to the desk and they said, we're going to upgrade you to first class if that's okay. And I said, yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that used to happen a lot when I worked for Xerox. We, if they had extra first class seats, they'd move us up. But I just never got anything that was decent. It was like here to Chicago, oh, whoop, 2-hour flight. Never got anything.
Yeah, well, I mean, domestically, first class doesn't amount to much. But on those 747s that were flying back then, the first class that was a big deal. I mean, there was a lot of difference. We flew business class. The company was paying for it, and we flew business class. And business class is really nice.
Yeah.
But it's not as nice as first class. But they
You
No,
do
the
keep,
biggest thing, the seats were wider and there were only like 2 on the side instead of
Yeah,
3.
yeah, and you've got a footrest that kicks up kind of like a recliner,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
do feed you good. I mean, you get
But,
fed about like they feed in first class, I think.
and if on the long haul, that would be nice.
Yeah,
when I started with Xerox, we all flew first class because the company's attitude was it was a first class company and the employees would fly first class. And I think I was there about a month and they canceled that policy.
So you're trying to tell me it wasn't a first class company anymore, huh?
No comment, even after all these years. But by the time I left, they were telling us if we needed paper clips, we just needed to go to Staples and buy our own. So,
Sign of the time, Sam.
yeah, well, it's probably back now. Everything's a cycle. But the only thing that got me about working for a big company like that is, they would tell me they couldn't fly me to Chicago for a seminar or something like that. At the same time, the CEO was buying a new Learjet,
Yep.
and at least when I worked for small companies and they said we can't afford it, it was because they generally really couldn't afford it,
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It's good adventure.
who do you work for now?
His wife.
Well, I have my own little company and actually 3 companies that I kind of sort of run, but
Oh,
I'm kind of
okay.
weaning. Actually, I got my Medicare card today.
All right.
Man, you're getting old.
Yeah, I'm starting to get used to accepting senior discounts and stuff like that. But I'm kind of, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm kind of leaning toward, my wife's a nurse. She works 1 day a week now, kind of when she wants to, and we're kind of, I don't know. I'm kind of there for a while. I thought I'd try to sell my companies, and now I think I'm just going to let it see what happens. Someday I may just get up and say I'm done. I get that way every year when I have to do my taxes.
Yeah, I know what you mean. That's kind of discouraging.
But I think I might have been there, this whole pandemic thing. If I could be traveling like I really would like to travel, and if we could be camping like we'd like to be camping and stuff, it'd be a lot easier to give up the business. But when I'm here, I might as well be making some money.
Yeah, might as well be doing something.
Yep. So.
What I do with my amplifier business, but I finally got tired of doing that. It's doing the same thing over and over and being the chief cook and bottle washer and the janitor and doing it all yourself. You get old after a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem with small businesses. You're responsible for everything.
Yeah.
Well, maybe if I'd done things different 20 years ago when I did all this, and now I could have a staff and I could be traveling and I'd have a trusted staff that would keep the money rolling in, and I could just do, but that's not the way it worked out. So never could get over that hump to hire those people. But I also have a lot of acquaintances over the years and people I knew that did that, and they got they hired a manager or something like that, and he turned out to be crooked. And when they came back from their 6-month adventure, they
were broke.
Till had been, yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
hard
do
to
you
find.
manufacture some sort of product, or?
Well, yeah, one of my companies, one of my companies owns the patent that I did, and that's all it does. It owns the patent. And the second company manufactures a trailer lock that I invented. And another company manufactures and wholesales those. And then I also have a retail company that sells on the internet. So lots of things. And so I'm kind of in 3 different tiers there. But
Do you have those locks and that sort of thing made by
Thank you.
somebody, or do you make them yourself?
the castings are done at a foundry up in Tulsa. Howdy. Foundry in Tulsa does the castings, and I actually do all the I haven't always, but right now I do all the assembly and packaging myself. Over the years, I've contracted out bits and pieces of it.
I'm not sure.
But
You do the machining yourself?
there's really not much. Well, there's a little machining, little welding and little sanding is all that's done. And yeah, I just do it. I used to have a machine shop that did it, and then he'd get busy and he'd tell me, well, I'll get to that in 6 months. And so, finally I just started doing it. Takes, my wife helps me. She, like the welding, I built a jig and she loads a dozen pieces on there and I weld them. She unloads them and loads another 12. And
TIG welding or
yeah, I MIG weld them.
MIG?
I tried TIG. I just can't get it.
I'm not logged in, so.
TIG's,
it's
I just
okay.
don't have the core. I think I could probably do it. It would be a better looking weld, not necessarily better quality, but I don't know. I just the 2 hands and 1 foot. I'm just not coordinated enough to do TIG. That's the bottom line.
That was a,
Catch you guys later. I've got to go to the net.
All righty. See
All
you,
right,
Mike.
Mike, we'll talk to you later.
But yeah, actually the welding, it's got a pivot pin and we put the pin in and all we're doing with the welding is sealing the hole where the pin goes
okay.
in. That's really all it does. So it's not really technical. It's just tedious. And I built a jig that holds the pin right where it needs to be in the middle of the hole, and weld one side, flip it over, and weld the other side. Move on. Then I sand the welds down, and then we sandblast the whole part, stainless steel. We sandblast it to where you can't even tell where the pin is. And but yeah, over the years I've contracted out every little bit of it one time or another, and then now I just kind of do everything but the casting and the sandblasting. I take it back to the foundry. They reblast them for me after I get it all done, and I bring them home and package them. So I don't know. It's been a decent living, but
so that's how you came to have the Bridgeport and the lathe and all that?
yeah, that's yeah. One time when I first started this, I was just going to be an inventor. I got the patent on this lock and I was going to sell that to, Master Lock or somebody like that for $1 million and buy a yacht. And then I was just going to invent other things. That was what I was going to do prototyping and just didn't work out that way. Oh, life is an interesting thing. How the wind blows you around.
Especially in Oklahoma.
Yeah. Well, I've always, I don't think I could run a business where I couldn't do the business. Does
Yeah.
that make sense? I mean, I knew a guy one time that owned a bunch of Sonics or part owners, a bunch of Sonics. And I asked him, I said, so do you know how to cook? Heck no. I hire cooks for that. I hire managers,
Yeah.
And I couldn't do that. I don't think I could own a business. I said, so what do you do if like everybody calls in sick? He said, we just close. We just won't open that day, until somebody can go open it. I don't think I could handle that. I've got to have my hand in every, or at least be able to pick it up and go. So what is Earl doing down here?
I'm not sure.
Earl's
That's what
learning.
I was wondering too.
Earl's
Yeah.
learning.
Are you building something, Earl?
I'm learning.
What is that you're learning on?
I'm just trying to blink some LEDs. That's all.
Is that an Arduino?
That's a Raspberry Pi 02W.
Okay.
And I've finally figured out how to get the operating system set up
to where I can remote into it from a Windows computer to even write code on it remotely without having to log on locally to the little Pi computer itself. But the hardware part of it is turned out to be a bit of a challenge. It's all new to me. And I'm pretty sure I burned out my LEDs.
LEDs are pretty hard to burn out.
Not for me, it ain't.
See, I saw something the other. I saw something actually in QST the other day about Dr. Arduino kit for like $100. It has, and I thought that looked pretty cool. Way you could do little projects on this, breadboard them.
Yeah, he was running a special. He kept emailing me, and I'm sure many people, but he was running a special selling those kits at a discount.
Mm.
You bought the kit, you got his course for free or something like that. Or
Well, so I'd probably go for that because I really am not good at electronics. I mean, that's not something I've ever had a lot of experience with, and would love to understand it more.
Well, what happened, fellas, is I managed to come into possession of several of these little stepper motors. And I finally figured out that the stepper motors seem to be fine. A couple of these things and the windings seem to be all right. There's continuity there. And I went and got my hands on this little board right here. I don't know if you can see on camera. I don't know how well focused that is, but that's a couple little 8825 motor drivers on there, right? And it's got all the power supply and an on-off switch and everything. And apparently this little bad boy will sit right up on top of these pins. It'll sit right up on top of these pins for this Pi 02W board. And I thought, okay, cool. Well, I finally figured out how to remote into this thing, but I couldn't get any of the motors to do anything more than maybe one of the motors would warm up when this thing was used. So I thought, well, maybe I might have burned up something on my Pi. So I'm trying to figure out a way where I can test each one of the output pins on here by making LEDs turn on and off. So that's what I'm trying to work on right now, is creating a test apparatus to make sure all these pins are good. Because I soldered all these pins on here, and I don't do that very often, right? And then the next thing for me to do is to find a way to do some testing on this board. I got to figure out how to test it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just trying to jerry rig a little test kit to make sure these boards are working properly.
So what makes you think you burn out your LEDs?
Because I can't get them to light up anymore.
So, it only takes about a volt or a volt and a half to light one of those up. You can test them on a 5 volt. What do you have any kind of a shop power supply?
Well, I tested them on 5 volts, and then I haven't touched these LEDs in 30 years. And if I put them on a 5 volt rail and lit one up, and apparently I think I blew it out because I think it was too many volts for it.
you need a resistor in there to limit current.
Right. And so that's what I did tonight. Went and learned how to hook these things up, and that's the reason why I put all these little resistors in there.
All right, you need a current limiting resistor. If you're using 5 volts, you can use a 330 ohm or 470 ohm resistor in series with it. And that LED is polarity wise, so you have to make sure you have it the right polarity. So if you hook it up and it don't light, turn it around, try again. Hard to burn them LEDs out.
Well, the irony is that the resistors came with the LEDs. I was like, why are these resistors in this package?
Now you know.
Now I know.
Well, I've got an LED multi-pack here, and came with a thing that says different color LEDs use different voltages.
Interesting.
and I had red and yellow, or at least in this, are rated at 1.8 to 2.3, and green, white, and blue are 2.8 to 3.6.
Yep, that sounds right.
And I'd never kind of realized that until I got this. I bought this big box of LEDs.
So
And
the fun part of all this is that the reason why I'm trying to get these motors working and the reason why I'm trying to learn about gearing and things like that is because I've got here an Arrow 2 antenna, and I want to hook that thing up and let the computer control where the antenna points so I can try to talk to the ISS to talk to the repeater up there.
so you're making a rotor out of it.
Yeah, I'm making a 2 degree of freedom rotor out of it.
And how big an antenna?
Not very big, but small enough to fit in a backpack. Then put it.
What frequency?
It's a dual band UHF VHF beam, Yagi. It's an Arrow 2 antenna.
Okay, now I know what it is. Satellite antenna.
And me and the family tried to use it the other day, well, really a few months ago, to try to get it to point to the ISS. And for just a brief moment, we could hear something. We could hear somebody talking, but that was it. And of all the tries we did several attempts at this. We never could quite get it pointed at the right spot. So I'm going to let the computer control that going forward.
Well, another way you can test it is satellite. There's a lot of satellite communication, and they use 2 meters up and 440 down, and your Arrow antenna will cover both of those bands.
Right on. So it's a whole new thing I never even really have done a whole lot with, and I thought, well, if we're going to do it, let's have some fun with it. So here you go.
I built a homebrew tracker one time. This was a long time ago, and I used a basic stamp. Do you know what that is?
I remember that, but I never messed with them.
Yeah, it uses kind of a basic programming language, and it's a computer on a chip. It's a little 28-pin chip. And with that processor and a few more chips, I was able to build a tracking thing for 2-meter moon bounce. That's what I use to track my big antennas.
That sounds like fun.
Driving stepper motors, Ken?
It was driving rotors,
Oh, driving regular rotors?
regular rotors. And the one for azimuth was a screw drive actuator that it drove for the elevation.
Sounds like an interesting project.
So now I'm going to try to remote into the, well, I'm opening up Visual Studio Code. I'm kind of new to that too. Last night I figured out how to get it to work through SSH to connect to this darn thing, to this little computer. Now I'm on my Windows computer here. Let's see. I have to do F1. There it is. Let's see if I can share my screen. Let's see.
Probably not, unless the guys at Elmer Night made you I think they have to make you like an administrator or something to.
Okay, so let's see.
I'll call Clayton, see if he.
Oh, I've got another way that I can do it. Let's see if this feed will handle it.
There's something. See, in a 1960s test pattern.
Is that clear?
Not for me.
No.
That print's too small for me. I can get my magnifying glass. I got an eye loop. I wonder if I could be with an eye loop.
Is that any better?
Yeah.
Better.
A little bit, yeah. Whoop.
I can't read it though.
I got to pin it so I can.
I've already got it set up. I called it Foxtrot. I don't know if you can see down here in the lower left-hand corner, it's trying to open the remote folders using SSH.
Yep. I see motion down there, a little swirly thing.
Yeah, it's back behind my name. And there on the bottom right-hand side, it tells me what it's doing. Okay, I think it was waiting for me to do something. Oh, you know what it is? I have to be on the same Wi-Fi network. I have to be on the same network as the device. I may disconnect momentarily while I connect to another network. I got to get out this little device here and connect to it with the laptop. While we're at it, I got to get it some power. It's about out of power. Okay. Switch over to that network. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, looks like I'm still on the network. All right, now I'll retry it.
There don't seem to be very many people at the fire station tonight.
It's
Kind of
cold.
cold.
And we're supposed to get ice, I guess, starting in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Late morning, I think, is when it's really. But who knows?
Last I heard, it was going to be here at around 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, right after drive times, with the way it was
And
turned.
then another wave later on.
Never know.
There we
Well, I
go.
don't have to get out and go anywhere, so
Yeah.
I don't either till Thursday.
I don't have to go anywhere till Friday. Well, I hope this is our last cold snap. I'm
that
tired.
would be nice.
I'm tired of it already.
Me too. I'm tired of it before it starts. I don't like cold weather.
Only good thing about it is I don't have to mow.
Yep.
Okay, I've made the connection to the Pi. And there we go.
I want to see them LEDs turn off and on.
Oh, heck, I have no idea how to do that. I got to figure it out. Oh, I got disconnected from it.
And I always thought that what we should do is, they got some pretty bright LEDs out now. Make us a big, long string of LEDs in a circle and send them up in the air on a weather balloon with the flashing LEDs, and then call the TV station and tell them we spotted a UFO. And everybody would go outside and look up, and everybody would see a UFO.
Well, when you run out of things to do, Ken, you can do that.
Yeah, I've thought about that for about 20 years. Haven't
Yeah,
done it
well,
yet.
LEDs have gotten a lot brighter in the last 20 years.
Yeah,
And cheaper. And cheaper.
yeah.
Yeah.
When I
These
first
little
thought
LED
about it, to tell you how long ago it was, I was thinking about using NE2 neon tubes, if you know what that is. It's a little neon tube about big around as a pencil and an inch long. LEDs would be a lot easier to do it with.
Yeah, and a lot brighter, much
Yeah.
brighter.
It's amazing how bright these LEDs are.
Yeah, it is. I mean, they've got some LED flashlights that are just incredible.
That reminds me, I bought a couple of LED flashlights just recently off of Amazon, and there was $8 a piece. But it's got one 18650 lithium ion battery in it, if you know what that is.
Yep.
And from now on, I'm not ever buying a flashlight that doesn't use an 18650 battery, because those batteries last a long time. They're easy to come by. That's the battery that's in every one of your battery powered drills. So whenever your battery pack dies, take it apart, and there's normally 4 cells in there, and normally only one of them's going to be bad.
Right.
You can salvage a lot of them. And you talk about bright. This sucker is bright, and it focuses. It's got a zoom on it, so you can focus it.
Yeah, I know. We've got a couple of those. My wife loves them.
Yeah, and
This is one I've gotten. It doesn't have a lithium battery, but you can see how tiny that is.
Yeah.
That is in my pocket.
Yeah.
If I've got my pants on, that flashlight's with me, and it's 100 lumens.
I mean, batteries.
I mean,
The batteries that we buy nowadays are very expensive, and these 18650s are cheap. Because you can get them from throwaway battery packs.
Yep.
And these little a lot of these little flashlights got 3 of those little AA batteries in them, or AAA, some of them. And if it's a flashlight that puts out much light, it runs through them batteries quick.
Yeah, it'll suck them down pretty fast.
Yeah.
I don't know, this little one in my pocket, I've had in my pocket for 10 years, and I've put 3 batteries, little AAA. I maybe had to put 3 batteries.
You don't use it very much.
Well, actually, I use it all the time. I mean, it's
Really?
amazing. It's amazing how often I use it. But actually, it's got teeth marks in it. It's been like that, so I can.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one's been
So it's
working.
got 1 AAA in it.
Yeah, it's got 1 AAA in it. I haven't had to replace it very often. 10 years, maybe 3 or 4 times, but it sure is nice having it in the thing I like about it may not be as bright or whatever, but it's always so easy to just carry in my pocket. You know, it's always there. And
Yeah, if you're,
power goes out, Boy Scout Sam pulls out his flashlight.
yeah.
So I'm looking here at buying a Dr. Arduino kit here. Trying to.
Yeah, I don't know if his special is still on, but he was really pushing the special.
How much was it?
Oh, he had 2 different levels of kits. He's got a kind of a basic kit, and then he's got what he calls an experimenter kit. It's got a lot more stuff on it. It's got a little screen on it and
Explorer. There's a Pioneer and an Explorer.
Yeah.
And Explorer being the bigger one.
But he was running a special on that along with his course.
Yep. Yeah, and actually he's got a bundle here where you can buy both of the kits for combined together. How much is that? Where's that? It's like 130 for the higher kit or 188 for both of them together. And you get the boot camp, he calls it. So
yeah, I guess that's the same deal. I don't remember what the price was, but that's the same kits that I don't know. I must have gotten.
But what I look at is what would I do with it?
Well, honestly, what I'm hoping to do with it is learn more about electronics. I mean, stuff you probably already just know instinctively after all these years that I just struggle with, being able to breadboard stuff and program these little Arduino computers. I bought several of those little Arduino, I can't remember the small ones, a few years ago, and the other Ken and I were working on some projects, and then this darn pandemic hit. Well, did you see that? Do you remember seeing that? No, maybe he didn't have it on here. He had it at the Elmer night I went to the other night. He built this keyer basically with an Arduino.
Ken did, yeah.
Yeah.
He told me about it. I didn't ever see it.
Yeah, he brought it into. It's pretty amazing. I hope he's not listening. He'll be blushing, but it's pretty amazing what he programmed this Arduino to do. It'll do iambic, and it's actually got 2 jacks on it where you can either plug a straight key or into one or an iambic into the other, and depending on which one you plug into, it knows what to do with with the signal it gets, and it's got a little sounder.
The project that Earl's doing is going to be a great learning tool for him, and he's going to have a useful product when he gets through. So I can understand why he's doing that. It's a great learning tool. See, he has a direction that he's going. He's just not getting a kit to put together and flash LEDs. He's going to track the ISS.
Yeah. Well, I bought a stoplight a lot of years ago, an old antique stoplight, and it's got the post and everything, and they used to sit on posts on the corners. And I refurbished it, and the only thing I've ever been able to do is I built a little circuit where it goes red, green, yellow, red, it just keeps cycling through. And I've always wanted to build a circuit where I could control it, where the green stayed on longer, and then, where I could have, and just never been able to figure out the electronics for it. So I have a project too that I really would like to work out, but, I bought, what are they, 555 timers. And I mean, I have tried so many times to breadboard something where I could adjust the timing of each of the 3 lights.
Yeah.
And now I want to upgrade the lights. The lights were, incandescent, 60-watt bulbs behind lenses. And now I'd like to try to figure out a way to put LEDs, really reduce the power consumption.
Well, if you can physically mount them in there, it would be easier to build a circuit to turn them off and on.
See, I honestly think if I've been milling this over, is if I took my 3D printer, I could probably print a holder for an LED that would screw into a light socket, just like the incandescents do. And I just cut the back out of the light socket, where the connector is.
Yeah.
Screw them in, run the wires out, and you never know the difference.
Or you could tear up an incandescent light bulb and wire it in there and then epoxy it in there, then screw it into the light bulb socket.
Oh, that's a thought too. If I still have any of those. I've pretty much gone LED, but
if you took that Arduino course, I'm sure you could learn to do that, what you're talking about.
I just think, just piddling with that would just help me so much, figuring out resistance and ohms. And I mean, just getting more comfortable with that, just doing little projects like that. So,
of course, a lot of what that course would be the writing the software for the Arduino, I guess, the code. But it's also a breadboard where you can plug in different things and hook up different circuits. And it looked like a pretty nice little kit. It actually has a little display on it, about a 2 by 3 inch display. And it looked like it was pretty well put together. I think the guys probably put together a pretty nice course there.
Well, it can't be any worse, my knowledge. Just better sitting down and doing it. But,
just if you've got time, that'd probably be a really interesting. I actually thought about going in and ordering one, and I thought, crap, I've got enough irons in the fire right now. I don't need any more. It would just remain in the box in the closet. So I thought,
well, it's got to have something to do on those rainy days or the freezing cold ones like we're getting ready to have. So
I'll just do a little bit of DX.
There you go. That's what ham radio's for, right?
What deal?
I say that's what ham radio's for. Have something to do on those cold and rainy days.
Yeah, we're going to have a couple of them here.
Yep.
Yeah.
I need to run another piece of coax, and I got that slicking stuff that I'm gonna told you about a couple of weeks ago, and I'm gonna put on it that grease, put on the coax to get it through there. But I'm gonna wait till warmer weather to start that project.
Yeah.
Are you gonna run that through your 3-inch?
Yeah, and it's full, but I'm gonna try to do that.
What are you gonna use? LMR 400 or?
Yeah, LMR 400. It's kind of stiff, as you know.
Yeah, but you've got big radius bends in your, or do you have any bends that you have to?
I have a lot of bends.
Oh.
And
yeah, it's the bends that.
And well, the problem is that 3-inch is full of coax.
Yeah.
Got 3 pieces of LMR 600, which is the big diameter, same as LMR 400, but less loss and bigger diameter. And it's also pretty stiff. It's got 3 pieces of that in there, and then a couple of LMR 400s, and then a rotor cable. So it's going to be tough getting it through there.
Yeah, you got quite a bit of area in 3-inch though.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think I've written the code. And of course, nothing's lighting up, but that could be just my ignorance learning this stuff.
Well, are you sure you don't have the LEDs in backwards?
Yeah, it's possible.
That should be
That's what I
pretty
was-
easy to.
It's what I was telling you a while ago. You can test that by using a power supply and some kind of a current limiting resistor and hook your LED up. One direction it'll light up and the other direction it won't. So you can test to make sure you have your power on the LEDs, the right polarity on them.
Yeah, that'd be the first thing to do probably is test the LEDs, make sure the LEDs are good. You can chase your tail sometimes if the components are bad, but
Yeah, they could all be in there backwards.
yeah, or burned up if you didn't have a current limiting resistor in there.
Yeah. See, a lot of the LEDs nowadays have current limiting resistors built in them.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
How about that? That was a smart move.
I thought so.
Okay, so if I remember correctly, the long leg is the anode and is the negative side, right?
I think that's correct.
Okay,
So are you using the current limiting resistor there?
I believe that's what that is. Now, I'm going from the negative side of the LED to the resistor to the negative rail. Is that the right order?
I don't think so. Do you have power on the rail right now?
I've turned it off.
Okay. Put power on the rail and see if the LED lights up. If it does not, unplug the LED and turn it around. You won't
Well,
put the LED out.
I've got the rail on ground.
It doesn't matter if you have negative voltage. You have negative voltage on the resistor. Is the resistor in the high side or low side of this?
Let me look at that. I'm looking at the code now. And to turn it on, I'm setting it high. So I've got the output pins from the Raspberry Pi going to the positive side of the LED, to the cathode.
Okay. And then the other side of the LED goes through the resistor to
ground.
the ground. Oh, you're saying the output of your Pi puts out a 5-volt signal, or does it go to ground?
I don't think it puts out 5 volts. I'm not sure what it puts out, but I probably ought to figure that out.
See, most of the time you do that the other direction. The output of the Pi or whatever processor you're using goes low to turn on whatever's out there. But it can be either way.
Guys, I'm gonna have to drop off. I'm about to wilt here. I'm
Okay, Bill.
tired from standing up on concrete the whole afternoon.
Well, that'll do it.
Well, I just pushed the button on that Dr. Duino thing, and it's kind of interesting. We'll see what happens. It's one of those deals where as you go to check out, he says, if a little more money, you can get this, and they just keep wanting you to add just a little bit more. I finally said, nah, let's just do this.
Everybody have a good evening.
All right, Bill.
Yeah, you too. Take care. I want some pictures of that tower when you get it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
See you later.
Bye.
See, the doing the programming part doesn't bother me at all. I mean, over the years, I've done a lot of different computer programming and things. I used to program in BASIC, and it's just a matter of learning the language.
Yeah, takes a little while to learn the language.
Computers are so darn picky, I mean, an extra space, 2 spaces between two words instead of one.
Yeah.
Makes it a totally different thing to the computer. So
Earl put a voltmeter on that output pin on that Arduino and see if it goes high or low.
No, that's a good point.
put that voltmeter across the LED. You can see if your polarity's right. Tell you if you got a high on your output pin of the Arduino or if it's a low.
Where do those sticks go?
You
I
can
should
invert-
probably run the program.
You see, you can, in the program, you can invert that output to be high or low.
Not a wiggle.
Now, one of the other projects that I had going on a while back was getting a couple of Pi Zero Ws to act as remote control for a couple of radios I've got in here. And I finally figured out how to make that work. So now I can use remote desktop connection from my Windows computer to control the two radios at the same time.
Well, I'm gonna have to get out of here too, guys.
Yeah, it's getting that.
I
So
can't tell you how long it took to figure that out. Holy
Yeah.
crap.
get a voltmeter down there on that thing, Earl, and see what it's doing.
Yeah, I got to get the program to run first. I'm remoting back into it because I had powered it down and powered it back up to Pi. Okay,
All right.
it looks like I'm in there. I'm gonna run it now. So now the program's running, I think. Let me confirm that it's running. Okay, it's running.
All right, put that voltmeter on that output pin and one side to ground and one side on that pin. See if it changes. So you think the output pin is supposed to go high for active?
Well, I'm gonna hang on. Let me figure out how I can test that.
One lead to ground and one lead to the output pin. While the program's running. Is the program supposed to be turning the LED off and on?
Yeah, it sure is. Yeah, I don't see
Alright.
anything coming out.
Then all you have to do is,
I think I'm gonna re-rig this so that I can test with a voltmeter, since I think I may have fried my LEDs. I'll re-rig it all back up, redo the breadboard so I can set up a bunch of test pins.
well, you can test the LEDs without, to see if they're hurt or not by doing what I told you a while ago. Put a 470 ohm resistor in series with it and hook it up to a 5-volt supply. If it don't light up, turn it around.
I can do that right now. Let me do that.
How big a resistor are you saying, Ken?
470 ohm,
470?
330 ohm, somewhere around in there.
Okay.
I'll just get a 5-volt rail going.
Use a 1.2K for a 12-volt supply.
Well, I'm going to get out of here too. I hear my wife rambling around, so she's probably wondering where I'm at. So,
All right, we'll see you.
guys, stay warm.
See you next week.
All righty.
All right, I gotta go too. I wanted to see if Earl got that LED to light up or not. Getting close, Earl?
Well, you know how it is when you're learning stuff. Okay, I'm about to energize that rail. Okay, so the rail should have power. Both rails should have power now.
So the resistor can be either in the positive side or the negative side. Doesn't matter. So you can, if you come off of the positive side of the rail with a 470 ohm or resistor or 330 ohm or something like that, and go over to a slot that you can plug your LED in. Then the other side of the LED will go to the other rail. If the LED don't light up, unplug it and turn it around and plug it back in. Joe is going to be stereo here. He's connecting two places.
Okay, I didn't get any lights on any of them.
All right, take your voltmeter and make sure you got voltage there.
So I got voltage on the rail.
What value resistor you got?
I haven't got a clue. It came with the package.
All right. You can measure the resistance with that meter.
Let me pull the resistor out and well, let me just pull the resistor out and measure it.
You probably got a whole bunch of them resistors.
They all seem like they've got the same markings on them.
Yeah, they're current limiting resistors. I suspect it to be 330 or 470 ohm, depending on what kind of rail voltage they're. I assume the rail voltage is supposed to be 5 volts, right?
Yes.
So if you tried to turn the LEDs on with no current limiting resistor, you could have burned them up. And if you tried to turn them on with your processor, you could have burnt the processor up. Because I don't think the output on those are made to handle more than, I don't know, 50 or 100 mils. LED only pulls 10 or 20 mils.
If I'm reading this right, it's been a long time since I've done this, so bear with me. I think I'm reading 1 kilo ohm.
Okay, that sounds okay. So the resistor's a K ohm, and you have voltage on the rail. And if you measure from put the 1 K ohm resistor back in like you had it in the LED, and then measure the voltage across the LED. And see how much voltage you got. That 1 K ohm resistor will drop that voltage down. Should be somewhere around 1.5 or 1.4, 1.6 volts across the LED.
So I'm going to go across the LED this time.
Go across the LED with the voltmeter.
So I'm going to a ground pin on the Pi. I need to change over to voltage.
On your little circuit board where you plug the LED in.
Yeah.
one side of that goes to ground
Yep.
and the other side goes to the B plus or the 5 volts through the resistor, right?
Okay. I've got ground to resistor, then to the anode of the LED.
Okay. And then the other side of the LED goes
Right now
where?
it goes to nothing.
Well, then it should go to 5 volts.
Okay, I'll send it to 5 volts.
Okay. And then measure across the LED.
Okay. I've done that. And measure the voltage across the LED.
Right. I've seen it move.
So go to, let's see, read this right. I got 5 volts across that LED. And it ain't lighting up.
Unplug that LED and turn it around.
Well, what do you know?
That's what I tried to tell you a while ago. I can see it. All right,
I'm darned.
now you know which way it has to go in there. So now you have a chance of figuring out if your program is turning the output port off and on or not.
So let's find that out right now. So I've taken the LED off the 5 volt rail, and I'm just going to use one of the output pins.
Well, okay. Now, I still don't know. According to what you did, you're expecting the output pin to have 5 volts on it to turn the LED on. It's supposed to go from ground to 5 volts or 4.5 volts back and forth.
And I don't know how much voltage there is on that pin.
Well, it should be about 4.5 volts. That processor is running off 5 volts, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a 0.6 of a volt drop possibly. Okay.
I've got to log back into the Pi so I can start the program.
All right. I'm gonna have to go in a few minutes. Now, whenever you get it running, if the LED is not lighting up, measure the voltage at the LED to ground, or measure across the LED again and see if you have any voltage or not. But what I'm thinking is, depends on your program, the output pin on the processor might be going low and you're expecting it to go high.
Roger that. Yeah.
So you have to check that and see what's happening there. And in the program, you can invert that output, whether you want it to go low for active or high for active, whatever you want.
I'm gonna change up the pin that is being used right now. I'm trying to blink a range of pins. I'm gonna change that to blink just the pin that's in use.
Yeah.
Which is pin number 8. All right, so I'm setting it into a loop. Okay, how I'm addressing the pins may be an issue.
If the LED doesn't come on, that means that pin is not going high.
Well, how I'm addressing the pins could be a problem too.
You may need to put 5 volt on the high may not trying to think how to phrase this. It may not have a 5 volt supply to go to high. It may just go low and high be not low.
This is also the very first time I've ever tried to work with the pins on a Pi. So it's possible the way I was, the mode I had it set into may have been wrong. So I just set it back to what the original code was that I borrowed. Okay, and I'm going to call it a night, but at least I know to check to see if I need to be setting it instead of, low, maybe set it to high.
Yeah. All right. I'll talk to you later.
All right, thank you.
See you later. See you later, Larry.
See ya.
Good evening, Larry.
Good evening.
Hi, sir. My name is Joel. I am checking in with y'all tonight. I'm a new ham licensed operator here, and actually we're in Yukon, and I'm trying to learn a little bit about the craft and get hooked up with folks. And I know you have this Elmer program that I found this evening online. Thank you for doing it.
Sure.
Quick question for you. I've got a mobile unit that I'm using right now. I did try to pick up the Norman repeater tonight because I think you guys had a session at 8 o'clock, a net session. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm just too far away to pick up anything on it, I believe, at this point. And so a question that I have is I'm looking at trying to maybe get an antenna for a base station. And right now, I guess what I'm trying to determine is, what that might look like. I talked with another ham operator and he had suggested a Comet antenna. And then I'd heard something from another guy about a 1480 tram. So I'm not there yet, but I'm kind of curious to know what might be a good place to start.
The trams are decent antennas. The Comets are great antennas. I've got here is the Tram 1480. I've got it to go on my WinLink system to run a WinLink and a repeater here at the house. The thing about the different lengths of antennas, you got different gains. Every time you go 3 dB of gain, you're doubling your signal. So if you go 6 dB gain, you're doubling the signal twice. Now, what that means is with a quarter wave antenna, you're putting out a very wide signal. A lot of it where you're not needing it. And as you bring that gain up, you're narrowing that field down 306 degrees around more into a useful area. Now, with our heels, you get into real high gain and you can lose some effectability. So, if you're up good high with a good high gain antenna, that's excellent. If you're, just rooftop, the real high gain may not gain you much, except more area to catch wind.
Okay. Well, the place that I'm doing right now is obviously, it's in a residential neighborhood. I'm over here in Yukon or far west Oklahoma City. The repeaters that I've been able to pick up with my mobile unit here, and I've got a 50-watt radio in the car, is like the Edmund repeater I've been able to do. With good signal on both frequencies, both the 70 centimeter and the 2 meter. So I guess what I'm trying to do is I'm really trying to get out of my car, get into the house, and then also, hopefully with a better antenna, maybe be able to, accomplish what you're indicating here too, which is to get the most out of the antenna for where I am. I don't have a tower. And if I did do anything, it would probably be something off the house or somewhere around the top of the roof line. I do have a 2-story home. I talked to a guy earlier tonight, and he has it running off of his place in Chandler, off of his roof line. It's a little different geography, but yeah, that's kind of what I'm trying to do and figure out. And then, you know, once I kind of figure out what this antenna could look like or should look like, then of course, just knowing the best way to mount it so that electrical, you know, lightning, that kind of stuff, that I understand exactly what I need to do to be prepared for that.
Right.
So Larry, since he's starting out, what about a Diamond and wants to do something on the house? What about a Diamond X50A?
I'm not sure which models are different on the Diamond or the Trim. You know, it's whatever your budget can afford, whether it's go with a Trim or a Diamond. And
then maybe one of those lightning arresters to a ground rod.
yeah, I would have a ground wire go up to the antenna, and then have a before the radio have a ground
So grounding's going to be, he's trying to figure it out, but the grounding's kind of important because with the winds that we get here in Oklahoma, the static that builds up on your antenna can actually get down into the radio and fry the finals in your radio.
Okay.
That's one of the advantages having a grounded antenna, which either the Tram or the I'm presuming you're talking about on the Diamond antenna, a base antenna, not a mobile antenna on it.
Yeah, he talked about one get into the house, right. And he's got that 50-watt radio, and if he had himself something like a Diamond X50A, that's kind of on the cheaper end of the base station antennas of the decent well-known brands, either that or one of the I'm sure there's some other brands. That's just one I'm used to. And then on the coaxial line, just before it goes into the house, to have it go through a lightning arrestor, these little inline lightning arresters on the coaxial cable itself, and run that to the ground rod.
Okay.
It can get a little bit more complex, but basically you're going to wind up having to get in through the window somehow.
Right.
You know, what a lot of fellas will do is they'll rig up like maybe a 2x4 or a piece of wood on one side and a piece of wood on the other, and bolt them together to create a kind of a bulkhead. Find a way to lock the window in place so bad guys can't break into your house there. And then put an RF coupler right through those 2x4s so you can connect in from the outside, and then a little patch cable to your radio.
Okay.
Do you rent a house or do you own it?
I own it.
So for long term, if you don't mind drilling a hole through the wall, that's the best option. You don't have.
Yeah. And then he could silicone that shut once he's got the wire run.
Right. And what I like to do is get a 1.5 or 2 inch PVC conduit elbow.
Okay.
And put that through the wall, and then you run your wire through there, and then when you put your cap on, fill it with foam or something, keeps bugs and stuff from coming through.
Yeah.
Yeah. They've got that expanding soft foam. If you get that thick enough, even the mice will stop trying to eat through it.
Okay.
But be careful because there's some foam out there that dries hard and expands. You don't want to use that one.
So which kind are you suggesting for the foam?
There, I forgot the name of it, but there's two kinds of expanding foam I've seen out there. One is the polyurethane, I think it's called, but that turns hard as it expands and it can actually break things.
Okay.
But there's another one, I forgot what it's called, but when it cures and expands, it's real soft.
Yeah, it's soft and you can cut it with a knife or with your finger.
Yeah.
You can put it through.
And you get that stuff thick enough and even mice will stop trying to chew through it.
Okay.
The other one is steel wool. Some people will use steel wool.
Yeah, I actually put steel wool around my AC condenser pipes that run in and out of the house for mice, and it worked real well. So I can do that with this feature too.
I'm sorry, Larry. I'm going to hand it back over to you. I got to focus on this program I'm writing.
No problem. No problem. So on your ground, you're going to want to one, the more ground rods you have, the lower your resistance is to ground, and the faster the lightning will get into ground or static. You want them, now if you put in 3 or 4, that's awesome. Want them no more than, or no less than 10 feet apart for maximum resistance. And you want to tie that into your electrical house ground. So you want all your grounds to be bonded together where they're one circuit.
And tie into the house electrical.
Yes. So below your meter box, there should be a ground rod.
Oh yeah.
And you can hook to that ground rod and hook that to your antenna ground rod. And then you want your radio be grounded. I like polyphaser lightning arrestor.
What is that one?
Polyphaser.
Okay.
Now, don't get too upset when you see the price of these lightning arresters, but I'll promise you they're worth the money.
Right. Absolutely. Is there some of the things that we're talking about, is there like pictures or diagrams or anything like that would be kind of something to reference? And I'm taking notes as you guys talk, but I'm also wanting to, kind of build that picture real well in my mind.
Yeah, let me. I put a system. Larry, you'll wanna do a little peer review when I bring this up. I did a project for a friend a while back, and let me pull up the diagram from that. Let me find it.
Okay.
Can you see this on the screen?
Actually on my phone at the moment, but yes, I can see that on the.
Forget all that balance stuff, okay? Here's a good one. So here's my friend's radio, okay? And just imagine you've got your output, your RF output going to a patch cable. And however long that cable is going to be, there's your surge suppressor, whether it's transit trap or polyphaser or whichever one you decide you want to use, and it's going to have a ground lug on it, okay? And that goes to ground. And then you're going to have another patch cable that goes to the antenna. Okay. And then you're going to want the antenna, the base of the antenna where it's outside shielding. You want that to ground.
What if I had something mounted to the side of the house, that obviously it would still have to be grounded, but physically it would be mounted to the house? Is that dangerous and not recommended?
No, it's not. It's not dangerous. I had a wooden chimney that I never used my fireplace, and so I mounted. Believe it or not, I used Wild Birds Unlimited advanced pole system in a slightly different way, but I used it to allow me to mount the antenna onto the pole, and the pole was mounted to the chimney. I literally had it screwed into the chimney.
Yeah.
But I ran with that for years when I lived down in Norman. And the only time I had a problem with it was when I didn't have it grounded. And that's how I fried one of my radios.
Yeah. And would there have been a way for you to ground it or not really?
Yeah. Yeah, but I was young then. I didn't know much about grounding, and I didn't obey the electrical principles of amateur radio.
Right. Okay, so that could have worked if you maybe took a couple more steps with it. I guess what I'm trying to figure out is obviously the best way to do this is have exterior aerial rather than something in my attic that's kind of covered up a little bit.
Well, now, if you did something in your attic, it would be possible, but you're going to run into issues with how tall is your attic versus how tall is the antenna. If you want to talk to people who are running around in their mobiles and people with their handheld radios, you want that antenna pointed up and down.
Okay. So we want it vertical.
If you have a radiant barrier, that will run an issue.
Yeah. And that barrier could be something metal, obviously, right?
It could be foil backing on your roof deck. It could be, I had a radiant barrier, which was basically a tarp-like substance with a Mylar film on it.
Mm-hmm.
Put on our roof when we had it roofed last time. And it made I did have an antenna in the attic, or it's still there, but it's totally ineffective anymore.
Okay, so really the best thing to do is try to get it outside.
Right.
Okay. How
Can you get a 2-story in Yukon with external antenna, and you're going to reach out a good ways.
Oh yeah, in Yukon, you're up on that plateau up there. You're going to get a pretty good ways.
I'm kind of over towards Lake Overholser, not next to it, but probably within about 3 miles of it. Okay. We were talking about the polyphaser lightning arrestor.
Uh-huh.
And then we were also talking about the base antenna being grounded, and that's kind of where we stopped. Can we go back to that real quick?
Sure.
So to address the base ground, what are we suggesting would need to be done there?
Most base radios will have a ground mug on the back of it. Of course, your coax is going to be grounded, and your polyphaser, which will look like this. And there's all kinds of different connections you can get on your polyphaser or whatever grounding device you have. You got this good ground lug on there. And there's all kinds of different ways people would hook them up. They'll maybe just put a lug on it to your ground rod, your ground wire that goes out to your ground rod. Once you get that grounded, your radio is fairly decently grounded. You know, to be really safe, you could bring another wire over to your radio.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I've seen some people that like to run a small coax, like in the 1/8" diameter, from here to their radio, and for a couple feet, giving it a chance to blow the coax tight into in a strong hit. So there's all kinds of different things that people do. We do have on our website, w5nor.org, we do have a page on grounding that you can check out. It's been a while since I've looked at it, so I'm not sure what all is on there currently. But the more ground you can tie together, the better. That once you get hit by lightning, it's looking to go to ground as fast as possible.
Right.
So if it hits your antenna, and the most direct route is to your radio, to your power supply, to the electrical ground, that's the way it's going to go. If the most direct way is down a ground rod wire to your ground rod to your electrical system, that's way 99% of it's going to go.
The ground rods, what are the dimensions of those? And what are they made out of?
When you go to Home Depot or Lowe's in the electrical division, they'll have an 8-foot ground rod, usually available in either 5/8 or 1/2" diameter. They will be a steel rod that's got a copper clad on it. So that means it's covered with copper, but the middle of it's steel for strength to pound it in the ground. Inserting it into the ground, unless you're real rocky, what you can do, get most way into the ground, is poke it into the ground, pull it back up, fill that with water, and just start working it down.
All 8 feet?
Usually 5 or 6 feet, and then you can easily put the rest of it in with a sledgehammer.
Okay, so really I'm going to want to have, say 7.5 feet in the ground?
You're going to want as much as you can get into the ground. You use how you bond your wire. There's different ways to bond your ground wire to your ground rod. If you use I think what they're called. camp, you want it a few inches out of the ground. If you have trying to say termite, but that's not right. There's a system where you put mold around your wire and your rod, and you put a powder in there and ignite it, and that bonds it with brass, and that can be done. Connection can be done underground.
Okay.
So,
Are there any other good like resources online, YouTube or what have you, that kind of discuss that you might be familiar with all these pieces that you're talking about?
probably. I'm not. I've never really researched them out. I've done electronic work and antenna work for 30 years, so
Okay, I think I could probably do a search. Kind of going back, if I may. So you've got the ground wire. Is the ground wire that we're talking about that's obviously going into the ground rods? You'd have to run a wire, you were saying, over to tie in with the electrical at the house. Is that, am I right about that? Like that's a part of,
correct.
okay. And again, that part for the electrical into the house, the ground electrical for the house, it's below the meter box. It's going to be a rod or wire that's going into the ground at that juncture, right?
Correct. There should be one there. Every ground or every electric pole has a ground rod on it. Actually, they run the ground wire down to the bottom and make it swirl around the bottom when the pole's made.
Okay.
But every pole has basically a ground rod built into it. And so that's the best ground around.
Do you need to, would I need to maybe get an electrician or someone like that to?
No, you don't have to go, but you don't have to go into the box. On the outside of your house,
Right.
you've got the electrical box out there, but somewhere near it is
Right.
a ground rod that's driven into the ground.
Yes, I believe I know what you're talking about.
And you don't need an electrician to wire that to ground something to that.
To tie into it. And how would you connect with a clamp or something, or?
There's already a clamp there, but
Okay.
if you wanted to get your own separate little clamp, you could do that.
Okay.
They're pretty standard these days.
Okay. Just the main idea is get good connectivity into that rod that's in the ground underneath the meter.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And
in fact, I use the ground rod that's right outside. I got lucky that it's right outside my window.
yeah.
Which is next to the meter.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking as I'm processing all of that in my mind from my place. Because where I was hoping to do it is not in the same quadrant of the house. So yeah. So how long does that wire have to be? I mean, what if I had to run that thing, say 30 feet? Obviously I want it to be buried or something. So I don't know, like if you're dealing with long distances or distance of any nature, here's the deal. If I have a shorter ground wire, I'm going to have a longer lead to the radio, to the place where the radio would actually be. And that could be 25 feet or whatever. And I know I lose signal or could run into other problems. So it's like, what should I be concentrating on? Should I be to get the best performance out of the radio with the length of the cable and all the other stuff that would be involved?
Well, you want the radio reasonably close to the antenna. If you can do some math, but what's your level of ham radio license? Technician?
Yes.
Okay. When you study for your general class, they're going to talk a little bit about loss, dB loss. The longer
Right.
that RF cable is, the more basically resistance you have. Okay. And that's going to decrease the wattage that goes out of that antenna. But the point is that when you get situated where you want your Radio Shack to be, where you want your ham radio equipment to be set up, you're going to want to get a ground rod in the ground as close to that as you can. Okay. And get your grounding put in. And now there's plenty of articles on the internet about amateur radio grounding systems. You're going to learn more than you ever want to know about electricity and grounding from that. And then you'll sort of look around over there and go, oh, hey, I think I can put an antenna over there. And then Google that, YouTube that, and you're going to see how you can get an antenna installed right at that location where you would want to be. Or let's say you decide you want it away from the house. Okay, maybe you want to put a pole up in the backyard someplace and mount your antenna to that. Well, that's fine, but now you got to do you have kids? Do you have pets?
I have pets.
Okay, so you're going to want to make sure that when the animals aren't running around the backyard, when they're running around the backyard, that you're not exposing them to RF energy.
Yes.
So you're going to find just through, and there's going to be a little trial and error here, but you're going to find that you're going to go, oh, after seeing some of these videos and having more conversations like this, oh, I think over there would be a perfect spot for an antenna. Or, hey, I think I need to put a ground rod right there, and I need to run my ground wire this way. I take it this is the first time you've had this kind of conversation?
Yes.
Okay. So let this conversation be kind of like a guidepost. And you've got access to this gentleman over here, Larry, who's been doing electronic stuff for how many years, Larry?
Better than 30 years.
There you go. And I did a little bit of grounding stuff back when I was a young man in the Air Force. So it's for the very first time of doing any of this stuff, it seems kind of overwhelming. So don't try to take it in all at once. Try to learn it piece by piece. Okay. And then when you learn a piece, install that piece. But before you physically install it, come to these Elmers on Elmer night and show them your drawings, show them your pictures of where you think you want to do things and what you want to do, and get their opinion.
Okay.
That'll save you some money. It'll take longer, but it'll save you a lot of money.
Sure. Yeah, appreciate that. And as far as the RF frequencies, like, okay, it has crossed my mind, the rig that I got, even for my mobile, it's magnet mounted on the top of my vehicle, right? And that magnet mount is literally just above my head or in the vicinity of my head. What kind of RF stuff could I be dealing with there, or am I not because of the way it's radiating?
But you've got a layer of sheet metal between your head and that antenna.
Right. So that's going to be, that's going to be the protection there. Is that right?
Yeah, and when you talk about a mobile antenna, it's got sort of a donut shaped lobe of RF energy. Just imagine a gigantic donut sitting on top of the roof of your car. The wonderful parts of the donut that you're used to eating are going outward. They're not going downward. They are going outward. They're going up and down, but not as much.
Mhm.
You got this wonderful metal shield between you and that RF lobe of energy. And if you've ever heard of the principle of skin effect, that electricity is going around the edges of your car, not directly into you.
Right. Okay. All right. So back to the yard and the RF exposure. It has to be, I guess my question would be, is there a way to, how do you determine the RF exposure? How high would it have to be to limit that from, people, neighbors, kids, dogs, whatever? Because I do have neighbors like right next door to me that could possibly be affected, because that's where that house meter is on that side of my house.
Well, I'm sure that Larry's going to have something to say about this as well as I will. I'm going to say this and then I got to get out of here. Understanding how to do RF exposure limits, how to calculate RF exposure limits is something that every ham radio operator is responsible for knowing how to do. It's part of the safety analysis that you do when you're deciding where you want to plant your antennas. Unfortunately, not enough amateur radio operators actually do it. And I think part of it is that it's kind of a complicated thing to do. And you're going to find articles and videos online about how to do RF exposure analysis, but you do need to do it. And having said that, I'm going to pass it over to Larry.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your help.
So 50-watt radio is a fairly small radio. I presume you're working 2 meter and 70 centimeter. So where the big exposure comes with is when you're running an HF and 100 or 1,000 watt rig. So you're going to find when you do your study that if you're normally 20 foot from your 50-watt antenna or antenna putting out 50 watts, that you're probably going to be pretty low. Risk there. And there's all kinds of places on the internet to put in the frequency or the band in the wattage and determine the safe distance and what kind of antenna you've got to do those studies. But so what other questions do you have?
I think what I'll do is I'm going to run with these great ideas. And then maybe I can develop some of them and then bring them back for kind of some analysis and feedback from you guys. So I think that's what I probably need to do now. I just want to keep it simple, but structurally sound. I think in my mind where I'm kind of playing with this is you guys have said, really the antenna and the radio need to be relatively close together. That being the case, in order for me to tie into the house electric at the meter, that wire is going to be quite a distance away from where the radio and the antenna could be put. And if that was the case, wouldn't I have to bury that length of wire all the way over to the meter to some degree to be protected, or what would you recommend?
Without seeing your place, you can run it along the house. You can bury it. You can put ground rods in the ground along the route that you're running it underground. The building I'm in right now, I've got a 30-foot drone tower on the side of it, and I've got a ground rod on each corner of the shed, and which one of the ground rods is directly below the tower, and they're all tied together into the meter box or the breaker box that goes out to the barn. And there's I have a couple repeaters in the barn. So there's 4 ground rods out there besides the ground rod that's on the meter. And they're all tied together.
Okay. All right. Now, you guys, have a real active group over there in your area. And then Edmund seems to have a pretty active group. There are some other repeaters in the repeater book, like Bethany has some listed. I've kind of looked at my location to see gradually how far they go out. You guys are like 32 miles from me on the 14706. And like I said, I couldn't pick up a signal, even went out in my car and drove over towards Mustang down on the Kilpatrick. And I still didn't pick anything up. So I guess what I'm kind of wondering is, while these repeaters are listed in the repeater book and I call out on them, I'm not getting any response. Is anyone familiar enough with the repeaters in the Oklahoma City area to know whether or not something is used at particular times, if it's really not being used at all? I mean, I guess what I'm trying to do is just figure out what works. Cause like I've been up in Northeast Oklahoma and used a repeater up there, and there are people that are chit chatting on it all day long. So it's very active, but I'm not finding any that kind of traffic on the repeaters that I've been trying to mess around with here. So I guess I'm just trying to figure out what's active, what's not active, that kind of thing.
Our repeater is one of the more active repeaters in the area. You should depending on weather conditions, I don't know what antenna you're running on your vehicle. I run probably a 5 or 6 dB gain antenna on top of a Chevy full-size van. And most of the time I can hit the repeater in the Yukon area. Maybe a bit weak. Scratchy coming back.
Is this on the 14706?
Yes.
Okay. The antenna that I'm running is a Comet M24M. That's the model number. But I'm trying to look on here what other. It's got some other stuff. I'll just read it off. It says 5M next to the RG-58A/U. And then it says G 1.7/4.15 dBi. And then a P 80W, I guess that's power, 80 watt. 50 ohms, 0.49 on length meters. W 460G, and then VSWR less than 1.5.
Your SWR is how effective the antenna is at radiating the signal that you put into it. So if you have a poor antenna that's not tuned right, and it's not your antenna is not absorbing all the signal and putting it out, then some of the signal will come back down the coax into your radio.
Okay.
And most modern radios, if you don't have good SWR, which the closer to one you get, the better it is. When you start getting poor SWR, most today's radios will kick back on power to preserve the radio.
Okay.
So most of the time on 2 meter and UHF, a factory radio will be tuned pretty close where it needs to be. When you start making antennas, going to UHF, then you need to really get into a antenna analyzer, or a lot of the people are now getting smaller devices, what they call a VNA, to look at how the antenna is performing. Now on the 06 machine, it takes what they call a PL tone of 141.3 hertz to key up the repeater.
Right.
What that is, there's a sine wave of 141 hertz in the background of the audio that the repeater decodes to tell it to key up. There's another repeater in Pryor, and there's a couple other repeaters in the state that share the same frequency. So to keep someone from between Pryor and our repeater from keying up our repeater when they're trying to key up their repeater, we use a tone to separate that out. So if you had an 88.5 tone, you'd key up the Pryor repeater on the same frequency versus 141.3 for our repeater. So you might double check that tone is set. You also have a tone squelch setting on the radio,
Yes.
which our repeater is not putting out a tone. So you may need to make sure that the tone squelch is not turned on. So you want to encode a tone but not decode it.
Okay, so I'm learning from the radio that I have, and I have found at times that tone squelch, it's a setting 24 on my radio. I have this Yaesu 6000, and it does have these different settings or whatever you want to call it. And I noticed with one of them, like I had to adjust just to something that would work, because I could see the signal in my visual window but I couldn't hear anything. So then I started just turning to the different options that were in the tone squelch. Finally found there were actually 2 or 3 of them that would allow me to hear the transmissions that were happening on the frequency. But what you're saying to me is the setting for you guys, it needs to be off.
That is correct.
Okay.
And most of the time, you're going to want to keep that off. The times that it's handy is if a repeater is using that tone, which is a cool option. Our repeater, we just have an issue with it keying the repeater back up when we keep it on. But if the advantage of that is when atmospheric conditions change, repeaters can go a long ways, especially when there's cold fronts coming in and dry line setting up. Signals will reflect off of those. So when you leave your radio on in the background, if the repeater is toned on the output, you can eliminate hearing other repeaters when you don't want to listen to it.
Okay.
But so not all repeaters will have a tone output. Majority of the repeaters will require a tone to key the repeater. And you can look up in whatever lookup you're using, whether if it's a repeater book or RF Finder, and they will list what tone it is.
Yeah, and so for the one that you guys had tonight, was it 141 point something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did put that into the radio, and I'm not sure. I didn't hear anything, and I didn't see anything on the visual. that showed any activity that I was picking up with my setup. So based on what the limited information that I've got here, you're thinking that possibly it could be the antenna that might be part of the issue, since you were able to get some reception from this side over to your area.
And let's go. Going to vary from place to place and from day to day.
Okay.
You take like the OnQ and Mustang. I can usually hear the repeater most of the time.
Are you talking about the IQ that's at Southwest 15th and Mustang Road, that new one they put in?
I haven't tried it there. The one that's in Mustang.
Okay, I didn't go that far south tonight.
Okay. I-40 is going to be, there's areas there that's going to work real good in, and there's areas on I-40 that there's nothing. So there's, the repeater itself is east of Norman. So you are on the far side, and it's going to be hit and miss. Should hear it around Highway 3 and the Turnpike.
Okay. Okay. Now, as far as the net is concerned, you guys had it tonight at 8 o'clock. Is that right?
We had a couple of nets. Yeah, we had one at 8 o'clock.
Do you have other times on Tuesday night, or when would be other good times for me to try to pick up the signal when people are on?
Right. We have two nets. One follows right after the other. We've also got a 9 o'clock in the morning net every day except Sunday and club meeting day, which is first Saturday of the month. So if you are available to check it out in the morning, and some days it's going to be great, and some days it's not.
Okay.
Some days you'll be able to hear it, but not be able to get into it with 50 watts. And some days you'll be able to barely hear it, but get into it good.
I gotcha.
The VHF fans do all strange things through the day, especially when we have weather coming in a day or two.
Okay. Okay, so right now you guys are not meeting in person, is that correct?
Yeah, we are.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Okay,
So the Elmer night, we are doing both a in-person and a virtual.
okay,
The in-person runs from 6:30 to 9 Tuesdays. We meet the first Saturday of the month, or no, second Saturday of the month at Firehouse 7 in Norman for a meeting. We start gathering about 9, and at 9:30 start with presentation with the meeting to follow.
okay. All right, and then the daily thing at 9 o'clock, is that in person too, or is it just net?
That's just a net.
Okay,
Well, there is also in person. If you show up at the McDonald's on Lindsay and Norman, you will find several hams there.
okay. Is that daily at 9, or is that just on,
Yeah.
okay,
That's where the 9 o'clock net started. The daily net. We were meeting at McDonald's. There was a group meeting there, and when COVID hit and McDonald's closed down, we started what we call a MacNet. And we check in and share some information. And when McDonald's opened back up, people were still checking into the net, and so we kept it up and running.
okay. That's awesome. All right. Well, Larry, you've been so incredibly helpful, both you and the other gentleman. Maybe that was Earl, I'm not sure, but I certainly want to thank you. I know it's 10 o'clock. I need to let you guys go, but I'm going to kind of, like you guys said, learn as I go here. I'm a new guy at this, but I'm glad to be a part of it. And I'm going to start working with that. I'm going to get that tone squelch turned off, see if that helps me out a little bit, and start monkeying around with some of these resources you guys gave me. It sounds to me like the one gentleman was thinking that this diamond was a good way to go. You had the 1480 there. You said it was okay, and then you said that the comment was exceptional. Am I right on that?
The comment is a little bit higher grade antenna. Trams are marketed out of Edmond. You take this is a 6 dB gain VHF, which means over a quarter wave signal. It concentrates the signal doubled twice.
Okay.
So every 3 dB gain is doubles your concentrates your signal into a doubled area.
Okay.
Now the tram you're looking at or the diamond, that's a 4-foot antenna. This is a 8-foot. It is going to cost you about the same as that smaller, lower gain diamond antenna.
Yeah, I think I saw it. Price has gone up a little bit, but I think it was like around just under $70 or something for that antenna you have right there.
Yeah.
And then the guy I was talking to earlier tonight that was talking about the Comet, he said they come in different lengths. I think he said GP3, GP5, something of those nature. I can look it up, get a little bit more specific.
So
But-
the linear antennas are basically going to come in at about a 4-foot, 8-foot, and 17-foot options.
Okay. And just kind of thinking about, again, my residential area, 4-foot would not be a problem at all. 8-foot maybe wouldn't be an issue either. I think 17 would probably be a problem. But in terms of the height, I mean, is there a way for me to think about this as if I could get the 808, you know, for the purpose of the antenna, or is 4 just fine? I'm just not knowledgeable enough to know what to do with that.
It's all about, you know, being up on a good flat spot. Your higher gain antennas are going to pay out. If you're down into a hole, then your lower gain antennas that put more signal up that can be reflected off the atmosphere do better.
Okay.
So,
go ahead.
So different antennas have different they work differently, and they have different advantages and disadvantages.
So in your estimation, like if I was to give you information about where I'm at, what would you need for me to be able to kind of get your opinion about what would be most advantageous for me?
What repeaters he wants to talk to, who he wants to talk to, how far away.
Well, if you're asking me,
Well, I'm giving you a list of questions to ask.
oh, okay.
Who do you want to talk to?
Okay.
Specifically, what if you want to reach a certain repeater, or if you want to reach a certain person? Next would be, how long is the RF cable? What kind of RF cable it is, going from the antenna to your lightning arrestor, and from your what kind of lightning arrestor, and then from the lightning arrestor to your radio or your SWR meter.
Okay.
And
So no, sorry, go ahead.
What kind of SWR meter, if you use one, and how long the RF patch cable is between that and the radio. What frequency are you wanting to work on? What power do you want to be able to set the radio to? What antenna did you decide to go with? And with that information, and how high up is the antenna? Physically, how high is it? That combined with your address and the address of the other station you're trying to contact, it would be possible to find out, will this work or not work?
Okay.
And Larry's the kind of guy who can he knows the math to be able to figure out, what's the wattage, what should be the wattage coming out of that antenna. And there's programs that you can use on the internet to help you do a kind of elevation study. Free stuff on the internet to help us determine, do we have line of sight there?
Okay.
Does that am I about right on all that, Larry?
Yep. In fact, on today's, are you signed up for weekly newsletter?
I am not. This is my first contact.
Okay. We have a weekly newsletter, and on today's issue was a RF line of sight production site. There's also a I think it's called RF Mobile Online that plots RF propagation. What's your call sign?
KI5 Sierra Zulu Delta.
What was that suffix again?
Kilo and then I.
That's prefix.
Oh, sorry. Sierra Zulu Delta SZD.
So you're just northwest of 66 in the Turnpike.
Yes.
Sounds to me like Larry may be doing line of sight study right now.
Well, I'm grateful for that because I conceptually know what he's doing, but he knows exactly what he's doing.
I'll be darned, I can get one light. I can get one LED on one position on this Pi to start blinking. But when I try to go to the other pins, I can't get them to blink. So I'm gonna call it quits here and come back at it tomorrow night. See you fellas. Good luck to you.
Good luck.
Okay. Oh, wow. Are you still in there? Hello. I was helping new hand. Yeah. Bye. Yeah, looks like we lost Joe. And I'm going.
Yeah, I think Earl is taking up for
Earl
the night.
jumped out and left his picture showing.
Oh, did he?
What's your email?
J as in Joel dot S as in Sam dot ILLGEN at ATT.net.
J.S.ILLGEN@att.net.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I think what I kind of thinking about what Earl said here, a couple of things. I'm at ground zero. So however I build this is a perfect time to be thinking about all of the things like patch cable and, what antenna and the length of the RF cable. I can figure some of that stuff out. In other parts I don't know right now. I would need help. But who do I want to talk to? I'm not finding anything over here that's viable to talk to via a repeater, other than the folks in Edmond. I even have done some call outs on the Oak City repeater multiple times and haven't gotten any responses. So, I mean, if you guys have a good community that's actually talking, if I could get out to there, that would be great.
Yeah. When you key up a repeater, you should hear it come back to you. Now, one thing you'll want to make sure when you're trying to get our repeater is make sure your squelch is set as low as it will silence when it's not keyed up.
What was that part?
Setting your squelch. I don't know on your radio if it's a manual knob or if it's electronically done in the menu. But there's adjustment on the squelch.
Are we talking about a numerical adjustment, or are we talking about like a different kind of setting?
On some radios, it will be a knob.
So like I can adjust the squelch from 1 to 15 in a numerical setting, and then I need to get my computer here and pull up the manual, but then it's got tone encode, reverse tone, off, DCS, that kind of stuff.
Right. Some radios will have a knob for your squelch. Some radios will be in the software. And you'll want that usually as low as you can go without it being keyed up.
Okay.
Making white noise all the time.
Okay, I got what you're saying. I know what you're talking about.
So you want it just high enough that it the lower you keep it, the more sensitive your radio is to hearing weak signals.
Okay, gotcha. I think I got it set like right now, like 5 out of, I think there's 15, but I can drop it lower. The thing that I've been also going with, again, being a newbie, there's a visual bar that populates in the window when a signal is being picked up on the frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't see any of that tonight. It could have been weather, it could have been location, it could have been antenna, I'm not sure. But that's kind of how I've been learning, is if I don't hear anything, look at that bar and see if it's populating at all.
Right. I need to go ahead and get out of here. As my wife called me just a second ago. When no one else want to come in the house.
Yes. Hey, really, thank you. What is a good time for me to kind of reconnect with you and kind of bounce ideas off? Is this time on Tuesday evening good? I'm not sure.
I'm attend online usually every other week and in person every other week. So next week I'll probably be, unless I'm busy, there at Elmer nights at the firehouse, and 2 weeks from now I'll probably be online. I'll drop you an email. My email is my call sign W5LHG at pldi.net.
Let me read that back to you. W5LHG at plpi.net.
PLDI, Pioneer Long Distance.
I gotcha. Gotcha. PLDI.net.
Or you can send it to treasure at w5nor.org.
Okay. Okay, Larry, thanks for your help.
No problem.
I appreciate you, and I wish you a great evening and best to you this week, okay? Stay warm.
You too. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.